All right, you're very welcome along to Monday morning's OTB AM. We're here with you every morning from 7:30 until 9:30. And I'm not really sure 2 hours is enough time to do justice to the sporting weekend that was. There was controversy on and off the field. There was a big FAI story. Rory McIlroy ends the season as the official #1 golfer on the money list, which, let's face it, that's what's important. There was conspiracy theories. There were big wins for certain teams. There was huge season-defining. Is it too early to say it's a season-defining? When Newcastle come into your ground and beat you, does it mean Spurs are still Spursy? It does. Owen, how are you?
I was wondering what you were going to go with season-defining there, because it could really be anything.
England are now like the best team in the world by a mile.
As far as pre-season warm-up matches go, that's as season-defining as something can possibly be, I think. And I don't think this is actually being really negative in hindsight. There was a sense before the game that this mattered more than your average warm-up game because of everything that had been kind of said in the build-up to the game. Of course, it was an opportunity for Ireland to perhaps kind of scratch away at what happened in the opening game of this year's Six Nations as well. So this was big. If Ireland had won, or if Ireland had lost by a narrow margin, we would be reading into it just as much as we are going to dissect it this week and this morning on this show, and across all the other media. It's going to happen as well. This matters. When it comes to a World Cup warm-up game, the concerns are not just warm-up related. They're seriously embedded in what we're actually watching in Irish rugby right now. But anyway, back to your point, yeah, Spurs getting beaten was not great.
No, it's look, there's so many things to talk about. The women's semi-finals in Croke, first time they were ever there. Massive controversy at the end of the Mayo-Galway game, like proper, genuine, massive controversy. Mayo were awarded a free in with 30 seconds left on the clock to tie the game up, which will effectively bring it to extra time. And then the free gets turned around and is actually given a free out, and the cameras don't show what happens. The TG commentators are like, "What? That's unbelievable!" They're like,
they literally say "duckreta."
Yeah, I got that word too. Like, I know what that means, and then it's game over. So we'll deal with that. The Dubs are through. They beat Cork in not a routine game. There was like 7 points all at half time. First 10 minutes after the second half, though, Noelle Healy came on, managed to change the game. So I'm not quite sure why she wasn't playing from the start, but because I missed the start of the game. But yeah, so that was that. Rory wins last night in a final pairing against his nemesis, his kryptonite. There was a bit of a wobble in the back nine.
Small bit, but manages to get it done in the end. And you have to really applaud Rory McIlroy for how he's finished the season, and really how he's kind of, I guess, how the season has gone in general for him. If you look at the fact that he has to put himself into a position to actually win the $15 million, it is a meritocracy. It's based on where you've been, like, going into the season. He wasn't the top 5 going into this weekend as well. He was one of those people who had got to blow par before things teed off at Eastlake. So he deserves to be there. He deserves to have won this tournament. And you kind of think to yourself, is this season a success for Rory McIlroy? Like, should we be saying that anybody who has his talents should be winning a major every single year?
Well, didn't he say that any year you don't win a major is a disappointment a couple of years back? But I think that any year that you win 15 million quid in one day is also a pretty good year. I think at the end of your life, you'll be like, yeah, I won a bunch of majors. I also won a load of money.
He says it doesn't matter. The money, yeah. And I think at this point in his career, probably doesn't.
I think if it's that much, though,
It is. It's
like the entire
ridiculous.
Half the country went batshit because the lotto was 11 million and Rory's just won 15. He sees you're 11 and he raises you 4, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, this game of poker's out.
Yeah, and he's won quite like, the thing is, would he hand back that 15 million quid to have the scenes that Shane Lowry managed to produce at Royal Portrush earlier on this year? The answer is yes. Yes, he would.
At Royal Portrush, yeah. But like, he has won an Open. I think, look, the money matters. Anybody who says the money doesn't matter, I don't believe them anymore at this stage.
No, like, I don't think he means it in the sense that this is completely pointless. Of course it matters. It doesn't matter how rich you are. 15 million quid is going to make some sort of difference to you. It's going to be something that it's going to produce a smile at the very least, privately, from Rory McIlroy and publicly last night. So it does matter. But in the grand scheme of things, he cares deeply about his legacy. He cares about becoming one of the best that we've ever seen, because he knows he has the talent to do it. And he will need to add the majors to actually prove that. But I think you kind of look at that now and you're like, actually, it was a pretty good season. It was actually a very, very good season, despite the fact that, you know, Portrush was an absolute disaster. And on a standalone basis, you can still make the case that
Portrush was a disaster, right? But the way that he handled himself on the Friday suddenly transformed Rory from this fairly soulless person in the eyes of many people watching golf into somebody that they could actually really get behind and love. And I think it's been a transformative year when you look back. It was this year that he decided he's going to play for Ireland in the Olympics as well, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. So like, it's been a Okay, so we're still only August. There's still another 3 months left for them to do stuff and do that money tour, that whatever happens now in golf for the rest of the year. But I think it's been a big year.
Race to Dubai.
Big kind of evolutionary period for him. And I think this win, in retrospect, when he comes back and wins a major, he's going to point to this and go, I was in a shootout for a lot of money. It was important. I'd been, beaten in that final pairing when it mattered on big occasions in the past. And I took Brooks Koepka and I schooled him a bit.
Well, that's the thing. You would say that pound for pound, he was up against the best golfer in the world. And
when something is big on the line, who do you want?
That's it. You want Koepka. And when it comes to whether or not 2019 is a success or not, Brooks Koepka had a roaring success in 2019, I think it's fair to say. So for Rory to actually go down the home stretch and beat him when it really mattered, because it did matter, the money does matter, I think it's a significant badge of honour for Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, absolutely. Spurs were Spursy, Man United, very Man United-y. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer suddenly has gone from beating Chelsea 4-0 to being beaten at home and a missed penalty. He's sitting, that seat's getting a little bit hot, a little bit comfortable for him. It's just like, no. No, I'm not having a wedgie, I'm actually just getting fired.
I can't believe what I said. It was Marcus Rashford's penalty on Saturday the best missed penalty you've seen? It was struck beautifully, made a perfect clanging sound off the post. As far as off-target penalties go, it was as good as you got. Like, you just kind of have to feel a little bit sorry for Manchester United at this point, conceding in the 92nd minute, 93rd minute to Patrick Van Aanholt, having missed a penalty. I should have had a second penalty and could easily could have walked away from that encounter with a 3-1 win rather than a 2-1 defeat. So
this is the stuff that used to be visited by Manchester United onto other teams, where they would miss a penalty, their chance of victory was gone, and then they would go down the field and score in Fergie time. But Fergie time's gone.
It is gone. It is
Operated.
gone. And like, that is what I just said there. Really is kind of not the point at all about this. It is about the point that they aren't getting it done in those manners. That they are finding faults where, say, Ferguson faults used not lie. So it's a huge worry for them. The start of the season hasn't been amazing at this point. I certainly thought going to the game against Crystal Palace they would definitely get 3 points. I thought this had actually been an okay start to the season. I thought they were pretty good at Molyneux, and of course you had to win against Chelsea in the opening day of the season. But now there are serious concerns, you have to say, that like, you would have to be on alert about Manchester United getting beaten at home like that. The good teams should be able to have moments of misfortune at home to Crystal Palace and beat Crystal Palace.
Yeah, pre-season I thought, this Palace team actually look good. They've managed to keep, and they've also invested relatively well, and it's another season for the same management team. That's generally and then their first 2 games of the season, like, maybe I got that completely wrong. They didn't actually look that good. But then, here we go. Maybe Palace aren't bad, and they're going to actually, these results won't be the absolute. Sorry, I can't even believe that. So you got beaten home by Crystal Palace and you're Man United? No thanks.
Like, I do wonder if Van Aanholt's goal is actually kind of a significant reminder of where David De Gea is at as well, because I think De Gea's situation and his possible new contract at Manchester United represents a bit of a crossroads as well. It's not something that we thought would be the case because, say, 9 months ago we thought he's probably the best player at the football club in relation to the other players in their position in world football. We could make a case for Pogba here or there.
He was being talked about as one of the best goalkeepers in the world.
Yeah, exactly, and rightfully so.
Have that conversation at the minute.
And we're having the opposite conversation at the minute about whether or not he deserves a new contract at Manchester United. If they give him that new contract, it is going to be a huge sum of money. He will become, I think, the highest paid goalkeeper in world football, if the reports are to be believed, over the last couple of weeks. So this is another situation where Manchester United are looking at it and they're like, God, is this just the same old recent financial failings? Is this going to kind of be a weight around our neck if we give David De Gea this contract and his form continues to deteriorate? So that's a big decision that's coming down the line as well. The way I would look at it, I'd be kind of more of a sunnier disposition on it all for Manchester United fans, that those things happen to a goalkeeper if you take it in isolation. You have days where crazy stuff happens on a football pitch and perhaps it's not as terminal as some people might make out after their Saturday. But the problem with David De Gea is that this has been going on for a few months now, and he finished last season terribly. It
was a crazy weekend. Obviously started off with Villa thumping Everton 2-0.
Have you got your Wesley jersey?
I'm going to wait a while. There are others, but it was great to actually be back in a game where you score, you batten down the hatches, and you score again in the last minute.
Well, I was making the point last week to you that they'd actually started the season pretty well, despite the fact that they hadn't got a win, and you were like, no, it's all about the wins in the Premier League.
Well, it is. The unfortunate thing was that everybody else the weekend also had weird random wins. So what should have been like, we're up to mid-table, actually they're still only 16th. So But the Premier League looks like it's going to be good this year.
Yeah, it was a brilliant weekend actually. Really enjoyable, tons of storylines. Obviously, the Villa win on Friday night, I don't know, it was just a strangely compelling win watching them beat Arsenal light as Everton have kind of turned themselves into be. Like, you're watching Theo Walcott obviously missed that horrific chance, and then Alex Iwobi, to be fair, he made a bit of a difference when he came on and hit the post. But you're wondering, how can you possibly smash that glass ceiling into the top six if you're signing players who are top six rejects?
Yeah, Villa did definitely ride their luck to that point. I mean, obviously the big story of the weekend is Liverpool are still Liverpool.
Yes.
Right. That's like...
And Arsenal are still Arsenal.
Yeah. They did do a little bit of Arsenal, didn't they?
Absolutely gigantic slice of Arsenaling. David Luiz is like the perfect Arsenal player. The perfect Arsenal player.
You were so excited when he signed.
I was, because he's David Luiz, and it's not going to be boring with him.
No, it's not going to be boring, in fairness. Like, and what do you want? You don't really want a Champions League win because it's not possible.
It's true.
Like,
you might want Champions League qualification, which might be impossible if David Luiz tends to find himself one-on-one with one of the fastest players in the Premier League out by the sideline once again and gets absolutely torched. Ben Foster put in a better defensive play against dispossessing one of the West Ham defenders than David Luiz did against Mo Salah on Saturday. He got absolutely torched and gave away a terrible penalty. Just a collection of really poor individual mistakes as well by Arsenal at points. Like, it should have been worse. That Mane chance that Ceballos gave to him in the first chance on a gold plate was another moment that you thought to yourself, God, if they manage to cut out these individual mistakes, they might actually have a chance in big games. But the problem is those individual mistakes just happen far too often.
They could have scored, did a few chances.
It would have been interesting to see what would have happened had Nicolas Pepe buried that when he goes one-on-one with the goalkeeper, had Aubameyang managed to get that effort on target where Adrian messes up the clearance completely. It would have been very interesting to see how Arsenal would have handled a 1-0 lead. But I think what we saw in the second half was the answer to that question, that they probably wouldn't have handled a 1-0 lead very well at all. And they will probably surrender leads as the season goes on. What I will say is that they're in a better position than they were last year, and I do think David Luiz is an upgrade on other Arsenal defenders.
Is that the Russian flag on your t-shirt?
I don't know. Is it?
I'm not sure. Somebody tells us.
Google that.
Yeah, he just like, hey, I work for Russia now.
Or Russia Today. Yeah, well, John Duggan managed to get onto RT last year, so that's just my aim.
Kevin Callahan says on a comment on YouTube, I think, I had a bad dream that England hammered us on Saturday. It wasn't a bad dream, it was the crushing reality of the fact that Ireland are no longer a tier 1 rugby nation. Are we going to get out of the group? I saw somebody 35-1 on Ireland not to get out of the group. Well, it's probably worth the fiver.
Well, I'd say it's much smaller than 35-1 now, is it?
So we're going to beat Japan? Definitely going to beat Scotland, are we? Definitely. So in fairness, like, everybody in the Ireland camp was pointing out that Scotland turned around a 40-point defeat in the space of a week and won a game. So, we can do the same, right? Except we won't be playing England again until the semi-final or final. There it is, 57-15. Rory Best being interviewed on the TV screen on the Jumbotron in Twickenham. Oh, how Twickenham is such a lovely stadium when Swing Low rolls around, that guttural slave song that the Empire has stolen and uses to celebrate their empire beating their former slaves.
Yeah, 2019
slaves is a joke. Colonists. I don't know what you do. Like, do you just gut the squad and go, right, bolters, come on in. Simon, come on down. Mr. Zebo, come on, buddy. You know you're only joking.
Potentially. I think you probably... There's a possibility of actually gutting certain positions.
Is Rory Best on the cup bubble?
That's the thing.
On the cup bubble, actually a potential that the captain who you've groomed for the last 6 years stood by through thick and thin. Are you going to now make the decision that, no, you got to go?
If you're going to make that decision, like, it will be ruthless, no question about it, to cut him entirely from the squad. Getting dropped as starting hooker is a very distinct possibility at this point, something that I'd imagine a lot of people will be encouraging over the next couple of weeks. The thing is, when we've looked at 2019 as a whole, it's been kind of a reminder that there's certain positions where the depth isn't perfect. Like, I'm a big fan of Sean Cronin, and I think in open play, obviously, we all know his talents there, but he proved during the Six Nations as well that on line-out, he can be susceptible as well. I think he was kind of given a bit of a harsh treatment in that regard when it came to, it was the Italy game, wasn't it, in the Six Nations? But I think you can definitely point towards Rory Best on Saturday as somebody who is kind of more directly responsible for line-out failings than the line-out system as a whole. So it's a big decision to be made. Like, Niall Scannell is the third choice, or would have been the third choice. Does he now go up 2 rungs in the ladder?
I think that's what happened. And I don't think he was ever third choice, and that he was never going to be the sub, really.
Sure, in Sean Cronin's impact.
Yes. Sean Cronin's stuck he's stuck at number 2. There's nothing he can do now in the eyes of anybody in World Rugby to become number 1 at Ireland, it seems. Unless, who knows, give him a game next week and see if his darts work. It's like putting. Get get the pudding guru in and go, all you're doing is just getting a little white ball in that little hole. That's all you're doing. It's really easy. We all know it's not. That's why those people make loads of money. Okay, look.
We're screwed.
We are, aren't we?
Yeah, we're in a bit of bother here, to be honest. It is very, very reminiscent of 2007. This whole idea, though, that it's somehow the fault of Joe Schmidt announcing his leaving, I just don't subscribe to that whatsoever. I really just, how can you be that bad at the thing you were paid to do by dint of the fact that your rugby coach is announced that he's leaving? He hasn't left. He's still there. He's still the guy who coached you to a brilliant 2018 in a Grand Slam and beating them.
Standing right beside him, who's the next head coach. So you're trying to impress him too. It makes no sense.
No sense. And Warren Gatland. You don't even need to look to other sports. You can look right in rugby. You can look right in international rugby. Warren Gatland announced that he is leaving. Wales won the Grand Slam.
Is Eddie Jones not leaving too? Is he not leaving it? I don't know. Is he starting? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Jones has a deal beyond it. Look, it keeps happening all the time in rugby. It doesn't seem to matter. It's not the same as football, particularly because we have the same coaching ticket taking over and ascending to the throne. So it's fairly obvious. Right, here's what's coming up on the show for you. We're going to get the sports pages, talk about Premier League, going to talk about Rory McIlroy's amazing win, 15 million quid in one go. It was a brilliant Premier League weekend. Andy Mitten's going to join us to talk to us about Man United. He's writing in The Athletic that he thinks neither Rashford nor Pogba should be taking the penalties and that Martial should be given a go, given that he's only ever missed one in his life. But so too has Marcus Rashford, so we'll put that to him. You can tweet us at OTB AM. And then the second hour this morning, loads of rugby. Cliodhna O'Connor is going to join us to talk about the women's football at the weekend. It is going to be a Galway-Dublin final in Croke. I'm sure the LGFA were pretty happy with the fact that the Dubs came through, because it means there will be a big crowd for the final. And then sports news around about 9:15 this morning. Now, we have an amazing competition running for you all this week here on OTB AM. We've teamed up with Dominic Smith, Expert Electrical in Dundrum, to mark the launch of their exclusive new TV and home entertainment showroom, which offers the latest TV and home entertainment solutions. Complete with a bespoke designed sound room, the new state-of-the-art showroom allows customers to experience the latest technologies from some of the world's leading premium brands. This week, you've got a chance to win big. Each morning, we'll have a €100 voucher from Dominic Smith, Expert Electrical and Home up for grabs. And then on Friday, anybody who's entered the competition all week are going to be in the draw for the overall prize of a state-of-the-art Sony TV and home entertainment system worth $4,000. 65-inch Sony Bravia OLED AG9 Smart TV, 65 inches. How big was the one you got a loan of one time?
I want to say 65 as well. Maybe it was even smaller. But oh my God. It seems like the most obvious thing I would say. You do notice a difference in a small TV to an absolutely ginormous TV.
I know, I'm definitely getting size envy on this one.
Yeah. Got it for the World Cup last year, and its sport even looks better on it, I think. So, I don't know, it'd be a good pre-Rugby World Cup TV to get, actually.
Yeah, it'd be sensational. The next generation Android Smart TV provides viewers with a multi-dimensional cinema viewing experience, wide viewing angle for a more natural picture, and built-in acoustic surface audio. So, this is a pretty sensational competition. $4,000 worth of TV and home entertainment system. So all you have to do is enter our competition. Just share this morning's broadcast on OTB AM wherever you're watching, and send us in a comment with your sports moment of the summer so far. So whatever it is, I think Shane Lowry's going to finish very prominently on this, but whatever it is, it doesn't have to be good, it could be bad, it could be whatever. Just enter the competition. We'll pick a daily winner, and then everybody who enters all week will be in the draw on Friday when we give away $4,000 worth of amazing TV quality. It's all courtesy of Dominic Smith Expert Electrical, one of Ireland's leading premium electrical and home entertainment retailers. Papers next, but first, check out our amazing golf trip coming up in November.
The Off the Ball Open tees off in Abu Dhabi this November 17th to 23rd. Join us with return flights from Dublin, 5 nights in a 4-star hotel, golf on 2 championship courses, gala awards dinner, Peter Lorry golf clinic, and a live off-the-ball roadshow, all for just €1,750. Kevin Kilban, Kieran Donaghy and Connor Sketches will be there too. The Off the Ball Open, Abu Dhabi, this November. Limited number of early bird places remain, so book now at CassidyTravel.ie. Deposit of €250 required. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, you're very welcome back. OTB AM with you every morning from 7:30 until 9:30. Best place to get us is on the Go Loud app. If you want us just as a radio experience, download Go Loud, and there we are in all our glory, broadcasting 24 hours of top quality sport entertainment. Now, let's take you through the newspapers this morning. I'm going to start with the Irish Times, and the Irish Times there this morning. 3 in a row dreams still alive for Dublin. This is the report from the All-Ireland semi-finals in Croke Park from Mary Hannigan. Galway against Dublin is going to be the final in Croker on the 15th of September. Lots of food for thought for Schmidt is the sober headline on the Irish Times, as opposed to most of us, which is the screaming "Ah!", which is kind of the appropriate response to that.
Yeah, I haven't gone through all the player ratings this morning, but Gavin Cummesky fairly tears into. There's a lot of threes handed out in the player ratings today, which I haven't seen
class.
for a while.
Let's go through this. We may as well. In fairness, Rob Kearney gets a 6. Jordan Larmour 4. Gary Ringrose 4. Bundy Aki 4. Jacob Stockdale 3. Ross Byrne 3. Conor Murray 4. Cian Healy 5, because you got to go off the field early probably. Rory Best 3. Jesus Christ. Tadhg Furlong 4. Ian Henderson 5. Yeah, there was at least one turn. John Klein. How's that working out for you? 3. Peter Mahoney 6. It's Ireland's man of the match, I think. Head and shoulders, is he? No, Rob Kearney up there as well. Josh van der Fleer 5. And CJ Stander 4. Wow. He's right though, right?
Yeah, he is.
Right.
In fairness,
he's totally right.
If you've got a record defeat...
Are there player ratings? Did Rory do his?
Twickenham,
or did somebody do them in the...
I presume it was done in yesterday's Sunday Independence.
Might not have been.
Yeah, so, like... To be fair, it is hard to make a case against any of those player ratings. To be fair, a lot of threes handed out. Yeah, it would have been in yesterday's. We'll try and go through all the papers that do have player ratings done in them. But really, if you're not handing out threes when Joe Schmidt suffered his record defeat and it's your worst ever defeat at Twickenham or whatever it was, then really, when are you going to hand out a 3? So you got to take that opportunity.
I mean, famously, somebody got a 0 from Frano back in the day when Leinster were beaten in one of those games. Which they never forgave him for. It still comes up from the Leinster players. Their anti-Frano is like, well, he gave somebody a 0 once.
Yeah.
I think it was Frano. I'm not sure. If it wasn't, then I have erred. But
I always applaud the courage of the likes of Marca and they keep for being ridiculously harsh on Barcelona and Paris Saint-Germain players whenever they get tanked or whenever they lose their one game in a run of 30 games or something like that. So you've got to applaud Cummesky for the courage to hand out threes left, right and centre for a warm-up game.
Interview these guys. That's
exactly.
It's tricky. I can't find the Indos even online, so...
Well, I do have the Indo back page. They go with statistics to lead the way. 42, a record points defeat to England. 34 missed tackles. 2 out halves in race against time to be fit. 1 captain facing a crisis of confidence. 27 days to get it right, and it's a picture of a concerned-looking Joe Schmidt. The front page of the Irish Independent leads with a few Dublin players after their All-Ireland football semi-final win yesterday. Dan MacDonald is writing about the FAI. It has no prospect of moving to better future until it deals with the past, he says. The All-Ireland build-up is beginning. All Blacks' attitude is very much part of Dublin's blueprint, says Dick Clerkin. And Nicholas Roach's diary will be worth a read today as well. To wear a leader's jersey in a Grand Tour is every cyclist's dream. He's in red at the Vuelta. Yeah, because Nicholas Roach has been having a fairly miserable season so far where nothing was really going right for him, and here he is suddenly at the end of the season in red. I mean, it's 2 stages in, and so it's very unlikely that it's going to lead to anything as the tour progresses, but it's great for him. Yeah, well, to be in the lead of one of the Grand Tours at any point is a huge, huge thing for every cyclist, especially after having a tough year, because we all know how tough it is to make a livelihood in the sport, and you are really at the mercy of your sponsors all the time. And your sponsors aren't happy unless you get a stage win here or there, unless you're actually up near the top of the GC in the Grand Tours here and there as well, because it's all about the exposure. It is just one big billboard, these tours tend to be. So it's a really, really good news story from Nico Roach.
The Mirror online have loads of 5s and 6s for the Ireland team. We're not really having that, are you? 5s and 6s, 57 points given up, 34 missed tackles, the majority of them in the first half.
Yeah, it's tough to make a case for too many 6s. It does seem to be the perceived logic across the papers this morning, across the writers, that Rob Kearney and Cian Healy are kind of the 2 people who might be a bit immune. Who else got a 6 actually, other than Rob Kearney?
Peter O'Mahony.
Oh, Peter O'Mahony. So yeah, that trio seems to be the three who will be going to Japan.
Who was the second one?
Cian Healy.
Oh yeah. Well, assuming the injury that he suffered, which had all the hallmarks of a high ankle sprain, right? Daily Mail. I can fix this. Ireland can ride out bad patch, says Schmidt. This is a Rory Keane's story. Joe Schmidt is confident he can reverse Ireland's slump in form in time for the World Cup, citing his early days as Leinster head coach when he guided the province through a rough patch. I said to the players after the game, look, I've been coaching professionally for 17 years. I've had these days. I think there's been 2 or 3 of them. So they are very, very rare, and we've turned them around each time. I do firmly believe that we can. Okay, come on, keep talking, Joe. We're listening. When you have a game where so many elements of it don't come together, it's very hard to get into the game, and I think we made it easier for England than it should have been. England are a really good side, and so they took advantage of whatever we did offer them, and it's incredibly disappointing. And yet we were in the game. We had a lead. I don't know. It just feels like there's a power to that England team that we don't have, and are never going to have, like, with this group of players, because you can't suddenly turn one of our guys into Billy Vunipola or Cocknasinga. Like, we just don't have those giants of men, and so therefore, what can we do to try and beat them? And there was no sign of it. Now, obviously, they're not game planning for that game. Like, they're not trying to beat that England team, are they? They're just getting fit and trying to get confidence.
Well, I'm sure that they're game planning for whatever their number one plan is, for whatever they want to actually, like whatever Joe Schmidt had planned to do on Saturday. You'd imagine he would have been planning to do something similar in, say, a World Cup quarter-final, because this is your toughest warm-up game. You're also in that sweet spot where you've got a couple of weeks to recover. Like, you'd imagine it would be a bit of a tapering off in terms of the intensity in the warm-up games now for the next 2 weeks. But this was perfect. This was a really strong opposition. Like England, Wales, there's much is between them, but possibly this is the toughest game they will have during the entire warm-up period. It was England's first team. It was close to your first team. Only 3 missing, really, from what most people believe to be the starting 15, his first choice 15. So why wouldn't the game plan also fall into the first choice category? I think really this was Joe Schmidt sending his team out to actually try and win this game, to actually try and give a really, really good account of themselves. The whole lack of motivation, maybe the missed tackle stat is the most important one. Maybe there actually just was something that just was that bit off, that they weren't planning to actually go full bore on. But it's just hard to make sense of it. It's hard to make a case for that.
Yeah, it's impossible.
The Irish Daily Mirror goes in the front page with Lightning knocks out Irish team. This is Ryan, 19, lucky to be alive after 1 billion volt blast at golf course. So this is the moment an Irish golf fan is knocked out cold as lightning strikes a tree he is standing under. This is at East Lake over the course of the weekend. Ryan Murphy, who's a 19-year-old from Cookstown, County Tyrone, was one of 6 people hurt as the bolts of up to 1 billion volts of electricity hit the East Lake Golf Club in Atlanta. His dad, Terry Murphy, told yesterday how the first thing his son said to him was, "Don't say anything to mummy." It's a mad story. I think there's going to be some questions at the PGA Tour after that. I'm not sure what those questions even are, or how you actually kind of stop this, what the learnings actually are from this. It's just it's a freak moment. Back page of the Mirror is, it's not the end of the world. Joe insists there is time to improve. Bruce Joyett wins over Spurs and Oz. So Steve Bruce claims watching Joelinton win him his first points at Newcastle was as nerve-wracking as watching the Ashes. So Steve Bruce, just before kick-off yesterday, said he was watching Ben Stokes wipe the floor with the Aussies, and said he was pretty delighted for them. So the front page of the Star is Plunder and Lightning. At the top of the morning to you. McIlroy's US golf drama. So Rory wins, tees up 15 million wedge as in, money. Also a golf wedge, see what they've done. And triumph after Irish fan hit by horror bolt. I hadn't seen the footage, but the picture of the lightning does look pretty scary. Can you see that there? No, they've obviously added in the lightning bolt, but the fire. If you're like at the bottom of that and the lightning bolt hits you and the fire's there, I'm gonna say I'm a bit scared. Not afraid to admit it. My first thought of that would have happened if I'd seen that towering inferno above my head. I would have actually just believed immediately that dragons are real. I was wrong all along. Dragons are real. We've been attacked here at East Lake Golf Club, and then probably the realisation would hit that actually no, it's probably just a bolt of lightning, to be honest.
So there is some video footage of it knocking around. We'll try and get a look at that for you before the end of the show this morning. And then the back page headline is 15 million man Rory. Camera left. There you go. Yeah, 15 million man Rory. And that's him. Delighted with himself, as he deserves to be. We must bounce right act. So Bundy Aki obviously did some media in the immediate aftermath of the game as well. Pep will pay price for VAR. Pep pissed off with VAR, funnily enough. And Toon rising from ashes. Steve Bruce claimed... you've already done that one, sorry.
Back page of the Herald is Dublin's Double Trouble special. So this is Paddy Andrews, who's quoted across the newspapers this morning, talking about O'Callaghan and Mannion in their top form. Meanwhile, Brady is in battle to prove his fitness. So this is Robbie Brady, who's facing a major battle to prove his fitness in time for next week's Euro 2020 qualifier at home to Switzerland's teenager Troy Parrott is also running out of time in his bid to work his way into the squad. And Paul Curran's column also focuses on the All-Ireland football final this weekend. Kerry should be close, but won't last pace. Dubs have too many outstanding players, he says.
So the Ashes, I don't know if anybody caught it, but I actually managed to miss the last half hour of it, but it did look like it was all coming to a head for Ben Stokes. The greatest innings is what it's been pronounced by The Guardian. So they're saying Stokes rips up the record books and provides a Headingley miracle. Their last few stands with, the bottom of the order was just sensational. It's not an opportunity that everybody gets to see in all their lives. He was dropped at one stage. It's now, so it's what they've been heading into that. It was Australia 1, they've been a draw, so it's now 1-1 with 3 of the tests gone, 2 tests left to go. Irrespective of what happens, the 5th test will actually have something riding on it. So
yeah, he said he was eating Nando's and Yorkie bars the night before. So that's obviously the key to success.
Champions.
Yeah, absolutely. Front page of the Times London edition is Stokes leads England to epic Ashes comeback, and he's on the back page as well, naturally. Superman is their snappy headline. Joe Root hails superhuman Stokes, Mike Atherton on one of the great knocks, and Steve James, it was better than both of them.
Front page stories on The Sun this morning, both are sports related. Ruse, sorry now, and it's Colleen Rooney flying into the US, and The Sun tells us that Colleen arrives in US for latest showdown. Apparently she wants Wayne Rooney back in the UK now. And I have no fears for my safety. Shot boxing coach recovering well. Boxing coach Pete Taylor is recovering well after being shot and insists there is no threat on my life. The back page of The Sun this morning. Out of tune. Poch's unsettled Spurs failed to get going. Are they already out? Are they done? Is that it?
Well, what do you mean by done? Title challengers?
Yeah. The stuff that we thought that we took on faith that they would be better than last season. This is exactly the type of stuff that happened to them last year.
Well, they recruited well in the summer, but they didn't recruit enough to challenge Manchester City and Liverpool over the course of 38 games, you'd imagine. So I think we knew the answer to that question already.
No, loads of people were like, "That's they're legitimate title contenders." It's Glory McIlroy is their headline for McIlroy. Coaching 17 years. I've had these days, says Joe Schmidt. And then some lads have only 4 or 5 games for Kerry. Peter Keane not having the stuff that Jim Gavin was saying about. This is Kerry's time this year, right now, this moment, this team. They have a core of very experienced players through the team. They do.
Yeah, they do. A lot of them, like the experienced players, most of them have won All-Ireland medal.
So what are we at? Today's Monday the 26th. What are your excitement levels?
Excited to be back in an All-Ireland final and everything that comes with that, and the day and the weekend that brings, for sure. But in terms of actually being excited for a game that Kerry could get absolutely slaughtered in, it's not exactly easy to be completely overjoyed with the prospect.
So what are your fear levels?
Pretty high.
How high?
An 8 out of 10.
Right.
And it's only Monday. Yeah. Look, it's the looming possibility.
But you must have been talking yourself into if this and this and this happen.
Well, no, see, that's the point. I would be less terrified if I was, say, a Tyrone fan, because if I was a Tyrone fan, I'd know that my team would get beaten by 11 or 12 points, so maybe 8 on a good day. If I was a Mayo fan, I'd be pretty terrified as well, because either what happened in 2017 could happen, or what happened a couple of weeks ago could happen. Whereas with Kerry, the only form they have to show against Dublin in the Championship is actually going quite close. So they actually haven't experienced that thing, which is getting absolutely pulverised by Dublin. But Dublin have pulverised every other county they played in Championship football at this point. They finally put the Mayo ghost to bed. And I'm saying that very, very tongue-in-cheek. The one team that they haven't absolutely destroyed and pulled apart in a completely ruthless manner is Kerry. And they could easily do that this Sunday, and it's just the fear of unknowing about that. Could that possibly happen? That is why I'm terrified. The Irish Examiner leads with that as well. Kerry's lucky general. Keane says Kingdom kids are inexperienced, but in it to win it. Efi exit, Cork boss steps down as Dubs eye 3 in a row. Anthony Daly is talking about the tip conveyor belt motoring, but Cork's confidence is shot. Barra survive, Cork champions edge Ross, Causeway are crowned Kerry kingpins, and worrying times is their little headline on the rugby. Schmidt admits concern at dishevelled Ireland.
The Telegraph this morning, wow, they're pretty happy. Out of this world. Stokes is unstoppable now. A colossal Superman who saves the series. That's Michael Vaughan's piece. He's the equal of both of them in 1981. Andrew Flintoff in 2005, with more to come. What is the impact on Brexit? Who knows? And Racing Post this morning. The US Open starts. It's on Amazon. And Stokes, stunning century, seals Ash's victory for 25-1 England at Headingley. So obviously a huge upset that he was able to manage it and get it done. And Ascot given Saturday deadline to decide its ITV future. Ascot has been asked to decide by the end of this week if it wants to remain part of ITV's British racing coverage, with the decision having the potential to determine if the sport's most famous racecourse moves largely off mainstream television.
Let's have a look at the Irish news this morning. Andrews has no problem with Morgan, so he was asked about the jaw injury he sustained in that collision with Niall Morgan, Paddy Andrews. We've also got asked this morning, Estancados, Real Madrid. They didn't win at the weekend, actually. Real Madrid.
Is that stinks?
Perhaps. Gareth Bale played again, didn't get taken off. Right. I was watching Barcelona last night, and Antoine Griezmann did the most bizarre celebration I've ever seen in my entire life. He's clearly got an incredible obsession with LeBron James as like his hero, and he tried to do stagnant, is that what it means? He tried to do that chalk toss that LeBron James does before each game, where he like grabs the chalk, claps his hands together, and it makes a massive cloud over his head. Griezmann went over to the corner flag. Some guy had glitter, poured it into his hand, glitter, like blue and red glitter for Barcelona, and then threw it up in the air like chalk.
You get booked for that because it's a prop. Not allowed to use props.
I don't think he did get booked, actually, no.
Hometown decision. Were they at home?
They were at home.
There you go.
But if there's a man giving you glitter, it's probably at home. Unless it was a number. He looks like a photographer.
Well, he's got to move around, doesn't he? He's got to have access to move around, because what if he scores in the first half or the second half?
That's true,
yes. He's got one in all four corners, and it doesn't matter which corner he goes to.
But it was actually for his second goal, so...
He's so rich, he can do whatever he wants.
It wasn't in the first half, so yeah, maybe that was it.
Did they win?
They did. They hammered it. The hammer bet is 5-2.
I'm guessing from the Real Madrid headline that they didn't win?
No, they didn't.
Hence the estancados.
Yes, stagnant. It's another... We should just collect a language of words that we've learned from ass alone.
9 minutes past 8 this morning. You're watching OTB AM. Up next, we're talking football. Just got it now, did you? Up next, we're talking football. Kenny Cunningham. We're back with Harry Arter, who made his OTB commentary debut at the weekend after these.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
I hear you some wire needs a fixing, ma'am. The name's Buzz, on account of my work.
No chance.
Not all cowboys ride horses. All safe electric registered electrical contractors must give you a certificate of completion that shows their work meets approved standards. Find one nearby on safeelectric.ie.
Thinking of a weekend getaway? Brace yourself for Belfast. Start your pulse racing with the rugged splendour of the Giant's Causeway. Relive truly epic battles on the official Game of Thrones tour. And then unwind at Clayton Hotel Belfast with a health and fitness club, pool and luxurious rooms from £95 B&B. Book now at claytonhotelbelfast.com. Terms and conditions apply.
And suddenly Dublin now lead by 5.
This is OTB Sports Radio. GAA on Off the Ball.
This Thursday, August the 29th, we're getting very excited. We're taking over the airwaves from 7 a.m. all the way until midnight. It's constant live programming. There must be something big on, Joe.
It's the Dublin Drive for 5, Ger.
And the 4 in a row has been achieved by Dublin. 6 All-Ireland titles in 8 years.
It's an extravaganza. We are on air from 7 a.m. to midnight, like you say. We're going to have all the best voices in GAA, from Andy Moran to Paul Rouse. We're going to have Dublin legends, Kerry legends. This is a full-on celebration of the All-Ireland final. We are taking over.
There's a full Dublin hour and there's a full Kerry hour, and never the twain shall meet.
Correct.
A lot of yeras and a lot of, sure. the money doesn't really matter at all.
Money can't make you kick the ball over the bar, Ger.
Volunteers.
It's the volunteers. It's an extravaganza. 7 a.m. to midnight.
Listen in on OTB Sports Radio. You can get it on the Go Loud app, or we'll also be streaming all day live on youtube.com/offtheball, or the best place to get us is offtheball.com. Get tuned.
Only on OTB Sports Radio. OTB AM.
For him to have only played the amount of games he did last year, but to have the impact he did whenever he did play, shows the quality that he has. I think a fully fit Kevin De Bruyne will be even better than that, and he showed a lot of glimpses today. The weather was so hot, it must have been, took a lot out of them players. But him and Sterling, I think Sterling's matured as a player. I think that goes a lot down to Guardiola, but he also has to take a lot of credit for himself. And you look at Man City's team, and it's difficult to pinpoint out one player who you would say is their most threatening player or would be their number one player, because they've got such a good squad where you can't concentrate on or nullify one of their threats, because it comes from all over the pitch. Fullbacks, even the centre halves. I said earlier in the commentary, you can't even leave them with too much time on the ball, because they had the ability to pick out players. So I think that's the beauty of this team, that you look at Liverpool and they have 2 or 3 individuals that have to be playing for them to function and for them to be as threatening. But with this team, for Kevin De Bruyne, everyone, he gets a lot of the headlines, but as you say, he didn't play that much last season and they were still so good. So it's such a team game, this Man City team, and that's why they're so hard to stop.
That's Harry Arter in conversation yesterday with Stephen Doyle after the game at Bournemouth, where City won by 3-1. I'm delighted to say we've got Kenny Cunningham with us this morning. Good morning to you, Kenny. How you doing?
How's it going, Jerry? You well?
Yeah, pretty good. Let's start with the Liverpool performance against Arsenal, because we were chatting about it a little bit earlier on. There was a fear at the start of the season that because of all of the involvement that their star players had and the globe-trotting that they'd done for their countries, that maybe Liverpool might start the season a little bit slowly, but they've allayed any fears and they've roared into the start of the season.
I might disagree with you slightly. I wouldn't say it's been perfection so far. They've been rock solid as you would expect. They've carried that goal scoring threat as they always do with the quality that they have. I've been a little bit concerned in terms of defensively, how they've been playing a little bit too open. For me, a little bit loose defensively across to kind of the back line. That's been a little bit exposed a little bit. It hasn't cost them so far, but it's something which they'll have to tighten up on. But the mentality is the same, Jay. I think that's the important thing, even when you listen to it. But it's very similar to the start of last season, Jay, when I heard the Liverpool players speaking after the games of kind of real focus, determination, just kind of pretty much really hungry for the season ahead and what they wanted to achieve. So, yeah, it has been a good start in that respect, but I actually still think there's more to come from Liverpool, particularly from the defensive side of the game, which was rock solid. Second half of this season last year, they were absolutely rock solid collectively as a unit, but also that back 4 unit hasn't quite been as watertight at the start of the season. It hasn't cost them so far, but they'll have to tighten up.
Kenny, how much of that is to do with the goalkeeping issue? Like, is that the knock? Nothing. No,
minimal. For me, it's more so in terms of the back 4, the defensive line. For me, they've been taking too many chances. Liverpool keep generally try and squeeze the pitch as much as they can, and teams that like to press high, you have to do it. You have to keep the team compact. But it's once you squeeze and you kind of plant your feet and you get that defensive line, it's what you do next. And what you do next is whether you hold your line, whether you squeeze another 5 yards, whether you drop 5 yards. That's all dependent on the picture you see in front of you. I.e., have we got pressure on the ball, the position, the opposition forwards, the runs they're trying to make, and you have to adjust your position accordingly. It's not all about just holding your line as high as you can with your hand in the air, maybe appealing for offside. Sometimes you've got to drop in, you've got to give 5-10 yards, you've got to defend the space in behind. And they haven't really been doing that. It's been strange. It cost them against Norwich, holding a line on the edge of the box, not dropping in. Pukki picked them off and scored a goal. They again didn't cost them. I saw against Chelsea in the Super Cup, keeping a very kind of square line high up the pitch. You know, Van Dijk could go as far as saying he'd been a little bit lazy at times with his defensive positions, his defensive recovery. Saw that against Southampton when they nearly scored late. Danny Ings just running off his shoulder into the box. Van Dijk not getting back towards the 6-yard box quickly enough. That nearly cost his team. And even then at the weekend against Arsenal, little bit open, Ger, on the counter-attack. And I wouldn't necessarily put that to Liverpool's high defensive line, but just in terms of the defensive shape, send the full-backs high up the pitch. Arsenal played with a diamond 2 high up the pitch, Aubameyang and Pepe. I think that was done for a reason. Emery had a look at it, and he left themselves a little bit open down the sides, invited Liverpool full-backs on. But what that did, that gave them a couple of little opportunities on the counter-attack, particularly keeping 2 men high up the pitch. And a number of times they got Pepe into that inside right channel first half, 1v1 against Van Dijk. And normally you'd think, no problem, off you go, just take the ball off and Verge. But he looked, I wouldn't go as far as to say he looked a bit nervous, Van Dijk, but he looked a little bit concerned in terms of the trickery and the pace of Pepe, and you don't see that too often. So just a couple of small little things for Liverpool to mull over. I'm sure the coaching staff will be having a look at the defenders, the defensive unit. It'll be talking about it and just shoring a couple of little things up going forward. But they're in great shape. I disagree a little bit. Just had a little bit of Harry Arthur speaking there, talking about Liverpool can't afford to lose like 2 or 3 players. Manchester City can. Well, I disagree. I think Liverpool can. The strength and squad, the strength and depth of Liverpool's squad, I think they can afford to lose kind of most players, such as the strength and the mentality within the squad, and they'll just keep ploughing on and keep picking up these points as they have been.
That's interesting, because I would have thought, watching the performance at the weekend, Kenny, looking at that front 3 in particular, that if one of them go down, they could be in a bit of bother, especially if it's Salah, given the form he's in, and Firmino.
Well, you could say it. I don't particularly think so. Yeah, are you going to be as strong without Salah in the team? No, you're not. Are Manchester City going to be as strong with Raheem Sterling? No, they're not. Have Manchester City got players to come in? Yes, I think they have. Have Liverpool? I actually think Liverpool do, to be honest with you. Origi, for me, finished the back end of the season very strongly, but I trust him coming in. If he needed to come in across that front 3 line, Shaqiri can drop in there. Lallana, people have kind of forgotten about, can also drop in across the attacking line. Now, people might say, not quite at the level of the Manchester City players, but it's not far off for me. I think Liverpool got some good options there. Klopp could easily have gone and spent big and brought another star striker into the football club, but I think he likes the dynamic within the dressing room. It's a very tight group, and to bring another player in for big money just might upset the equilibrium in the dressing room. So I think he's happy what he's got, the kind of relationship, the atmosphere inside the dressing room, and he wanted to keep that intact, so he's resisted the temptation to go out and spend big on what would be a backup striker on, really. And no top quality striker is going to come in for big money and be prepared to sit behind those top 3 Liverpool players, because everybody knows when they're fit they play. So no, if I was Liverpool's part, overall I'd be very happy. I think they're in a good place, and we're set up again for a thrilling season in terms of the title race between those 2 teams.
I think it's fair to say that David Luiz didn't have an amazing evening at the office on Saturday, Kenny. In terms of Arsenal's central defensive problems, because they still exist, are they in a better or worse position than they were at the end of last season?
No better for David Luiz's appearance at the football club. I was very surprised that Emery made that jump and brought him there. I know people said, 8 million, very experienced player, etc. He ticked a lot of boxes, but not for me in terms of what Arsenal needs in the centre of that defence. They need somebody who knows how to defend, basically, and actually somebody who enjoys defending. And David Luiz never struck me as somebody who actually enjoys defending. His position for the the Salah goal, it's almost unprecedented. You very rarely see defending like that, the way Salah left him 10 yards behind him, running towards the edge of the 18-yard box. The only way you can get beat as a defender in a situation like that is that the forward actually drops his right shoulder to the ground and actually spins to the left, and actually does it. You kind of fall for it and you get left behind. But if you watch Salah's movement, he doesn't even do that. All he basically does is lean, slows down and leans to the left and takes a quick touch. So to be left 10, 15 yards behind your man after a kind of simple bit of skill like that, it's unheard of. It's literally unheard of, and it's lazy defending, and it's typical of David Luiz, all or nothing. When it comes off and he wrestles the ball off the centre forward and walks up the pitch with the ball, 40,000 people are off their seats clapping, brilliant defending. But unfortunately, the next 2 times it happens, he's chasing back towards the edge of his penalty box 10 yards behind his man. That's what I mean. It's all or nothing. When rather than staying his feet, shift his feet, keep 2-3 yards goal side, have to move his feet and almost concede possession, allow your teammates time to recover around you. That's good defending. That's what you have to do 9 times out of 10. And he doesn't do it. He doesn't want to do it for me. And for me, it's the last sign in Arsenal needed going into the season, where they need to improve and become more solid defensive, particularly in that central defensive area. I'll be amazed if he plays the whole season there, because these kind of problems are just going to multiply and continue all during the course of the season.
because I wasn't sure whether or not he deserves all the blame or whether or not it's a kind of a bit of a systematic failure in terms of the result. Of course, that individual moment with Salah and the penalty was pretty bad, to be quite honest with you, Kenny. But like you talk about Arsenal's diamond there, Klopp was saying after the game that he was surprised that Arsenal played that, and some of the analysis was quite negative towards how Emery set up. So are we looking at an individual cause of blame here, or are we looking at more at Unai Emery and pointing the finger at him?
Yeah, it was fascinating now because I watched the first half of the game live, and that was an obvious thing. And immediately you looked and you thought, well, this is interesting. Playing the diamond two from. We know Liverpool's strengths predominantly down the sides, the fullbacks high and wide, linking up down the sides with the Liverpool wide men. So you look at the diamond, and immediately you think, well, why are they inviting those Liverpool fullbacks into their own half under no pressure? You basically allow Robertson and Alexander-Arnold to travel deep into your half the pitch before you can get pressure over them, before those narrow midfielders can get across and actually go and engage him. But Emery's not an idiot. You got to give him credit. He's a very experienced coach and clearly had a look at it, and he thought, well, I know that's Liverpool's strengths. Plenty of teams go to Anfield and play 4-5-1, 4-3-3, whatever, and still have problem with those fullbacks. But when you go with 4-3-3 essentially, you basically leave yourself with one centre forward high of the pitch, and it's very difficult to counter-attack Liverpool, particularly with the qualities of Van Dijk. So he clearly had a look at it and thought, well, look, I'm going to give up. I'm going to give up a little bit those sides. Actually, almost lay a trap on in terms. I'm actually going to encourage those Liverpool fullbacks. They get the ball. I'm going to let you come into our half the pitch, and I'm going to almost push Aubameyang and Pepe, keep them a little bit half and half up the pitch. When we do win it back, we got two targets up the pitch, and in Pepe and Aubameyang, we got players who can actually spin down the sides in the two Liverpool centre halves. And as that half progressed down, after that initial 10-15 minutes, what the hell is Emery doing here? He's an absolute idiot setting up like this. Arsenal just started to get a bit of traction in the game, particularly on the counter-attack, and Pepe, if you saw, start to become more prominent in the game in terms of being able to work that inside right channel. And it was fascinating up until half-time. For me, it was quite an even game going into half-time. Yes, Liverpool dominated possession and being the more aggressive team on the front foot, but Arsenal becoming more and more dangerous as that half progressed. So I certainly wouldn't be too critical with Emery. Clearly put a lot of thought into it. Yes, they lost 3-0 and people say, yeah, so what? You know what I mean? They absolutely got rolled over. But there was periods in that first half I felt, wow, this could be game on. If Arsenal had taken one of those chances they created first half, it really would have been.
Is there a flakiness though to a team that sets up well, is doing okay, and then immediately falls apart as soon as the goals start to happen?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. Yeah, but that it goes without saying. That's not even up to debate. That's a fact. We've spoken about David Luiz, and exactly, that's pretty much typifies it. The final. Although I haven't said that, I watched them first game of the season up in Newcastle, and they were actually solid. If there was one more, you know what I mean? People say solid, so what? But you can't say it too often about Arsenal, particularly second half of last season away from home. Now, Chambers played that game, first game of the season, up alongside Socrates up in Newcastle. And Rob Holding, first half of last season, seemed a long time ago, actually looked as if he was establishing himself at centre-half in terms of just being a dependable centre-half who his teammates could actually, you could actually trust in that central defensive position to make the good decisions the majority of the time. And first half of that game against Newcastle, they were solid for the majority of that game up there. It didn't look too porous. Now David Luiz comes into the team, and suddenly it's like you're away with the fairies a little bit again. And yes, collectively they can do a little bit better. But I think if he gets the personnel right, for me, it's David Luiz coming out of the team. That probably is not going to happen in terms of his personality, the money he spent to bring him into the football club. But potentially likes of Holden to come back into that team, maybe Chambers as well. Socrates I like. He's kind of heart in the sleeve. Someone who actually enjoys his defending. You can see that in terms of likes to be aggressive, kind of make tackles. You can kind of trust him to an extent. Maybe not a top class centre half. And with the likes of Guedes in midfield, for me, is a very hard working centre midfielder. He's only going to get better. I'm a big fan of his. Torreira, if he gets his head right, looks as if he was angling for a move in the summer. I think there's a little bit more to come from Arsenal, but certainly with some of Luiz's qualities in the centre of defence, you're always going to have problems. There's always going to be a soft underbelly in terms of the defensive setup of the team.
We should talk about Manchester United, Kenny, because this penalty story is kind of rumbling on, isn't it?
I mean, that's getting bored of now. Oh, and you're better than that. Come on, we got better things to talk about.
No, he's not. Come on.
Manchester United penalty fiasco, surely.
But the thing is that looking at Saturday, I think the fiasco is over. I mean, is Rashford suddenly the man who's being backed? Because I think the one thing that was missing here is that we didn't have a tiebreaker on this. I mean, Pogba took a penalty, he was fouled for. Rashford took a penalty, he was fouled for. Neither of them were fouled for the penalty they got on Saturday. Rashford took it, he hit the post. It's a case closed now, I think, that Rashford is just on penalties. Even though he missed, it kind of seems like a really weird thing to say.
For me, it should be paper, scissors, stone in the penalty box between the two players, and that should resolve. That's what I was actually waiting for. It was getting that kind of ridiculous, some of the debate. I understand to a certain extent. I listened to some of the ex-match. Gary Neville was kind of very vocal, and he was like, having kittens, like talking about it in terms of Solskjaer coming to agreement with the players that you would both decide amongst themselves. I wouldn't be overly critical of that. People said that's ridiculous. Attention to detail. You must have your penalty taker. But in the heat of the moment, lads, I think you have to make allowances for the fact that, you might have your penalty taker. I think everybody's agreed probably Rashford is the better penalty taker. But in that particular moment on the pitch, in terms of the mindset of the player, there's got to be an allowance for, look, if you're not quite where you need to be mentally, or for whatever reason you don't fancy it, maybe Rashford's been taken down for the penalty, maybe he's been wiped out, he's been taken out, he's been clumped, he's 3 stitches in his shin, he gets up, well, you got to take the penalty, you're a penalty taker. There's actual logical argument for, at times, yes, you're a penalty taker, but you know what, I'm going to pass it on to somebody else. I think Arsenal had that situation some years ago with Henry, I think it was Perez as well. They would literally have a discussion, and if you were the penalty taker and mentally you're in the right place, take it. But if not, for whatever reason, you could pass it on to somebody else. So I actually don't have a huge problem with that. Pogba missed the penalty, and of course Rashford had missed the one this weekend. But for me, it's been overplayed a little bit. For me, there's not a right or wrong, lads. It's just a different kind of mindset in terms of how you deal with. Some players will have a designated penalty taker. Some won't. To be more of a collective thing. I don't think there's a right or a wrong. It's just what's best for the group.
What do you make so far the start to the season that Solskjaer has overseen at Manchester United?
I really enjoyed the second half performance against Chelsea. A lot of people saying it flattered them. Well, I didn't think the 4 goals flattered them. I thought they deserved the 4 goals. They earned them. I don't buy into this mode of thinking, well, they only created 4 chances, but so they didn't deserve to score 4 goals. Well, if you're clinical enough to create 4 chances to score 4 goals, you do deserve them. So I thought they thoroughly deserved that victory. They were really impressed with that kind of counter-attacking game which they played. It's interesting, listening to the discussion about Harry Maguire, and I'll be a fan of Harry Maguire. I think they're a lot stronger with him in the team, but I'd be interested as the season goes on having a look at Maguire, because there's just a small indication there. I don't know if you remember the goal of the weekend, the AU goal, that long ball flick on, AU scores. Now, if you have a look at that in terms of Harry Maguire's position, Harry Maguire's a lovely player, very good reader of the game, and when United were playing counter-attack against Chelsea was earlier in the season, they were sat on the edge of their box and picking Chelsea off in the counter-attack. Maguire looked amazing, reading the game well, stepping in, making an interception, passing for. He's a lovely passer at the ball. But I always look at Maguire and I think the big test for him is going to come when he gets a bit closer to the halfway line. When United start to dominate games in possession and start pushing towards the halfway line, there's space left behind him. And you just saw an indication. There is a small weakness, frailty in his game. It's his mobility. It's his kind of speed, particularly on the turn. And if you look at that when that ball was flicked on, it was Wilfried Zaha beat Lindelof. Only a hopeful ball up front, flick on. AU just gambled on the flick on. Maguire didn't have a great starting position, but when he doesn't get a good starting position and he doesn't read the game, doesn't sense the danger early, for me, he hasn't got the speed. He hasn't got the speed on the recovery, and you saw that AU just kind of went away. He was never going to get back to him. So that'd be a small thing, as good as Maguire's been, and I think he will contribute to the team. I think there's a small area of concern there. Balls down the side and over the top of him. Some of the teams that play counter-attack at Manchester United may just look at Maguire and think, can we get down the side to him? But apart from that, I think they're in good shape, high up the pitch. I like the variation of the pitch. Martial, Rashford, young boy James is going to need a bit of time. It's just centre midfield, lads, is the issue they have. I think they're still short there. They haven't gone and bought big in the summer in terms of top quality midfielder. Still not 100% sure about Pogba in terms of mentally where he is. That first half against Chelsea, I was looking at him thinking, I'm not sure he wants to be there. He picked his game up in the second half. That transfer window, that needs to come and go pretty quick in terms of the foreign clubs, and he needs to kind of really knuckle down and show a good attitude once that happens. What United don't need is him kind of not moping around the place, but just feeling a little bit sorry for himself and feeling a little bit hard done by that big move hasn't come, and playing at kind of 70-80%. They really need him for, and if United have got aspirations of that fourth spot, the kind of this season Champions League, they really need him for in that central area of the pitch, because they're a little bit short in there. McTominay, Pereira, they played Lingard off the front, but for me they're actually short the top quality central midfield player, and that's the one area which may hurt them over the course of the season.
The David De Gea situation is going to rear its head again, Kenny. You suspect, obviously susceptible for the winner for Patrick Van Aanholt on Saturday. It's a situation now where they were talking about a £350,000 a week deal during the summer as a new contract. Do you or do you not follow through with that to keep him as your number one at Manchester United?
I think the contract's on the table now, unless you've heard anything different. I mean, it's been there for quite some time. It looks as if they put a hike on top. They've thrown a little bit more at it over the summer in terms of trying to get him to sign. He's clearly got reservations. I mean, I don't know the fella personally, Owen. I'd like to think it's certainly not a financial issue. I mean, that's an absolutely huge contract. And you could trace this back to the Sanchez signing like last year. This was always going to be the problem, bringing Sanchez in and paying him the money that they did. This is the ripple effect when you come in and pay a player that amount of money, particularly when he's actually not in the team, because you get your other senior players whose contract come up for renegotiation. It'll be Pogba, it'll be De Gea, and one or two others look at that and think, well, I want parity with this player now. I'm making a bigger contribution than him. So Manchester United have actually caused this problem for themselves in terms of how much they're having to give De Gea. That said, I genuinely feel as if De Gea, I look at him and think maybe he's thinking, does he want to make this kind of commitment over the next 3 or 4 years, keeper in his prime, to Manchester United in terms of maybe trophies. You know, he may be driven to that extent in terms of being very ambitious and wanting to compete at the highest level in terms of league titles and Champions League, and that's what the very top players are looking at, Champions League and league titles. And at the moment you'd have to say Manchester United are a little bit short, and it may take them some time, maybe in case of maybe 2-3 years, maybe even a little bit further on, to get back to the top of the perch. If that's the case, I'd cut him a little bit of slack to Gay. If that's what he's been driven by, forget about the money, what it is. Do I really want to be in this kind of environment over the next 2 or 3 years in terms of, do I want to play a part in getting United from where they are at the moment back to the top, and in the meantime maybe sacrifice myself in terms of trophies to do that. So if that's his motivation, I can understand, and maybe why he's taking his time, and maybe why he may even wait till the following summer and maybe make the decision then.
Kenny, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning.
Cheers, lads. Take care.
Kenny Cunningham giving us some thoughts on the weekend's Premier League action. Now, on Wednesday week, the 4th of September, Off the Ball are bringing you a very special roadshow in the Borgosh Energy Theatre in association with Cadbury. Premier League legends Roy Keane and Gary Neville will be our star guests at this exclusive off-air event, discussing their careers at the highest level, their time together at Manchester United, and giving their thoughts and predictions on the new Premier League season. The event was sold out in just a couple of hours, all the proceeds going to the charity Aware. But over the next week on OTB AM, we've got some of the last tickets to give away. To enter this morning, win a pair of tickets to our Roy Keane and Gary Neville Roadshow in association with Cadbury's. Just tell us who made their senior Manchester United debut first. Was it Keane or Neville, and who was it against? And you can enter that on all of our usual social channels. Now, it is 34 minutes past 8 this morning on OTB AM. We're talking rugby next with Alan Quinlan after England annihilated Ireland on Saturday, 57-15, a record-breaking score. Here's Rory Best talking about our line-out issues.
I think we got to put more pressure on ourselves in training. I think that sometimes it is, you think you're in a good place now. Look, I think we said it in some of the press that everyone feels they're in a good spot now because you've come off a pre-season, it's running, you're training against each other. You know, when you put pressure on yourself, but nothing's quite like the pressure when you get into a game, and you can either go confirms that you're in a really good spot, or else it goes, oh shit, right, we're not quite where we want to be. And today was a swear word, we're not quite where we want to be, and the lineout's going to be one of them, and we're going to have to make sure that we nail that. I think we've been really happy with our process, and we just let that drift a little bit today. You know, I think both hookers were a wee bit slow to get set. Like I say, the line was laboured coming in, and we just got to make sure that doesn't happen again, because I think when you can get that speeded up and you don't give the team pictures, it's a lot easier to win the ball when they're not all over you. And I think when you look at some of those lineouts in the first half, they had people everywhere, and then everyone just gets a little bit edgy.
Should we manage to get a couple of scores and games off first phase?
Alright, so that was Rory Best fronting up, Ireland captain and hooker, in the aftermath of a record-breaking defeat. Alan Quinlan, welcome back.
Thanks, Ger.
Good timing.
Yeah, good timing. Straight into it. Shocking, really. That was the kind of feeling I had after leaving the game on Saturday. Most of the second half, I think it was that was the feeling from many Irish fans over there and anyone watching, really. I think I didn't expect them to win the game. I didn't think it was hugely important to win the game. I expected a bit more energy, enthusiasm, and
the stuff that doesn't cost you anything, right?
Yeah, look, I think there's some mitigating factors which are not the reasons why the performance was so bad.
Well, let's talk about them, because certainly one of them is, like, let's not overreact to Ireland being a couple of weeks behind England and England being further down the road. So the stuff that you can do, that you do irrespective of whether or not you're tired from a hard block of training, is, as Rory Best said, you get to the line-out in time. You're energetic when you get there. You paint good pictures to the referee. Your defensive structure is good.
Solid.
You know where
everybody's...
everybody's...
something that you build your kind of foundation off, because I said it before the game on Saturday that one of the most important things, and one of the things I wanted to see from Ireland against a very physical English side, was them being confrontational and aggressive, winning those collisions, stopping, not getting beaten on the 50-50 kind of collisions, if you like. And that's in your control. I know that little bit of zip and energy and enthusiasm and spring sometimes is not there when you're after a heavy block of training and you're undercooked from a rugby point of view from matches. England's 2 games would definitely have made them sharper. But we looked, bar the first 20 minutes, we had all those things, plenty of energy and enthusiasm, but we were a little bit naive again in attack and in defence, and that's what kind of upset me a little bit, was the lack of kind of presence. We didn't have a presence really on the field where people were putting their hands up. I think bar 3-4 players, Carney, Furlong, Keane Healy before he went off, everybody underperformed and made mistakes and errors, which is a worry. We can say it's uncharacteristic during the Six Nations, given what happened in 18, but this is a hammer blow, to be honest. And England were ruthless. They kept going hard as, but some of the earlier tries were soft, and they were down to errors at the line-out, losing our own line-outs. The Tuilagi try, we had a line-out in their 22 and had a great attacking position. We lost it. They end up going up the field. We have another line out in our 22. We lose that subsequently after a number of rucks, and a couple of minutes later, Tuilagi is scoring. And defensively then, we make errors and mistakes. Bundyaki was inside Nigel Owens. I think he switched with Ross Byrne to stop Vunipola coming around off the scrum. But they just get their timing all wrong, and their positioning and their shape in defence. And Stockdale comes in off the wing a couple of times, and you can individualise it and say, well, the individuals are making mistakes defensively, but systematically they need to communicate a lot better, and that's part of a rustiness. But if you're training with these guys, Ger, and you're making those kind of mistakes in training, you get
proper bollocking
lifted in training by guys around you for those kind of defensive errors. So too many of those on Saturday, which is a big concern. The line-out malfunction. People often ask me about the line-out because I was so kind of into line-outs when I played. I call line-outs. They can be down to a number of things. First thing we do straight away, and on the outside, is blame the hooker. He has to take some of the blame if his throws are inaccurate, but the calling as well, where you're calling the ball. And I think a lot of the times Ian Henderson called it where England were defending on Saturday, and that's just making it so much harder on the hooker. So it's a team effort, a forward effort, where it's the application, the lift, where the ball has been called, and then the execution of the hooker, and all that malfunctioned on Saturday. So it's a culmination. And I know Rory Best probably needs to offer more around the field and play better as well. He's certainly under pressure. Our back row were beaten.
How much pressure is Rory Best under? Is he on the bubble when it comes to getting on the plane?
No, I think you can't. You go from being number 1 to number 4.
What if you have gone from number 1 to number 4? Though?
Yeah, there's an argument today. I think there's, it's I think it's not being disrespectful at this stage to any of the players to say that they're vulnerable. And I think they'll admit it themselves and they'll be nervous themselves. And knowing Joe Schmidt, loyalty, being loyal to people is important in sport. And it's important that you do, pick guys up when they have bad weeks and give them a chance to atone. These guys will get a chance to atone. I don't think based on Saturday's performance that you're going to scratch names off a list. So, but if they don't perform very quickly, I think they've made themselves very vulnerable. The back row, Jacob Stockdale, Rory Best, they've made themselves vulnerable, and I think I don't think Joe will make a mistake if they underperform the next 2 weeks against Wales, bringing guys who've underperformed for a number of weeks. I don't think he's going to do that. I think loyalty in 2007, which hindsight is a great thing, where Eddie was very loyal to people, that's not going to come into play here. I think look, at the end of the day, there's some players who maybe not have a load of matches played when they get to it, i.e. Sexton. He'll be involved in the next few weeks, but Carberry's not going to play a lot. They're players who have delivered and are top quality guys that you can't afford to take a chance on.
No, but now they're undercooked because Sexton has another injury, isn't going to play the game against Wales. So maybe he plays that last warm-up and that'll be the only rugby he's played before the World Cup. If he starts the game...
Look, it's never going to be perfect here. There's going to be a few risky situations, but I think where some people haven't... The guys who didn't have a good Six Nations and underperformed on Saturday are vulnerable, and that's the reality of it. Sexton will be an exception because we've got to take it. We've got to take it. It's a different scenario.
But you mentioned the back row. Who in the back row in particular?
Well, Peter didn't play well, CJ Standard didn't play well, Josh van der Fleer didn't play well. All three did not play well. We're short a little bit of depth, probably at the 7 position. Geordie Murphy and Tommy O'Donnell are next in line there. I don't think you should dismiss, at this stage, nobody should be dismissed that's in that 41 or 2 that's still there. So I think they're under pressure. Rhys Ruddock will want to get an opportunity. Jack Conran will want to get an opportunity and say, well, I want to be on that plane. I want to be on the team. And they'll be banging at the door of Joe Schmidt saying, well, I was banging at Eddie's door in 2007 at the World Cup. So was Stephen Ferris. And it doesn't change. I think, look,
here's the thing.
They haven't all become bad players.
If Ewan Ferris had been in the team in 2007, if he'd made changes, if he'd brought Jamie Heaslip, instead of just going with the lads who had been carefully manicured, then there would have been an excitement about that team, and who knows what would have happened.
Yeah, but look, to be honest, the one bad, we lost to Scotland in Scotland, and we actually played okay, and it was a mix and match team. We played in Bayonne, we beat them by 30 or 40 points. It was a bit of a brawl, it was a mess. The one that brought the concern in 07 was the Italian game in Belfast, where Raj scores a try in injury time, which he knocked the ball on. He'd admit that himself. We should have been beaten by Italy. So we only really had one kind of, oh Jesus, this was a terrible performance. And what I'm trying to say is, if we have another 1 or 2 of those,
then it's time to
start.
It's time.
You have to but the squad has been picked and submitted by this day next week. It's not going to be announced till after the second test. So
the league straight
basically,
away,
basically, look, between now and it's Saturday, I think guys are playing for a place in the plane on Saturday. And look, hindsight's a great thing. Do you know what I mean? If things work out and you do something different.
The game, the Ireland-France game, was on Air Sport last night again, from the last World Cup where we beat them, and I had forgotten that Keith Earls played 13 in that game. Robbie Henshaw was 12. Is Bundy Aki at risk? Is Gary Ringrose at risk? Jordan Larmour's at risk after that performance
They're all
the weekend?
at risk, I think. And I think Chris Farrell is someone who's going to come into the conversation in the next week or so.
Not playing at
Robbie
the weekend
Henshaw. Is
one of the best career moves that some of those guys have ever made.
That's the thing. It's sometimes when you avoid this disastrous loss, people talk about how beneficial that is to you as a player.
Oh, it's really disappointing we got beaten so badly at the weekend.
If Robbie Henshaw would like to be out on the field on Saturday, Chris Farrell would have been. Will Addison is another person who can offer something in that back three and put pressure on the guys who are there. So there's Look, the vast majority, I think, will still be on the plane because they're
We've
good
no
players.
choice,
Look, they're good players, and I think we're gone from a place of incredible success to hitting a brick wall in the Six Nations to now more question marks. I do have faith that Joe will have something different, and Brian Moore's writing on the Indo there, and I respect his opinion because he's very honest, and he was a fan of England. A fan of Ireland in their success in 18, and he spoke brightly about them, and he's an intelligent rugby man. He's saying, well, I see no semblance of any sort of a game plan on Saturday. I know you have to have a basic game plan, but I genuinely believe that they won't show a lot in the next couple of weeks anyway. I'm hopeful that Joe will have something up his sleeve for the World Cup.
And for such a structured team, that's kind of a double whammy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but I think we will loosen the shackles a little bit come the World Cup, and we'll play, and I think they will be mindful of the fact of who the opposition are and how to beat them and get results. And ultimately, if we get to a quarter-final, which is still going to be difficult because Japan and Samoa may have a say in that either way, no matter what happens against Scotland, I think it's just more of a pessimistic outlook now in the next couple of weeks. Are they all bad players? No, there's something wrong. And a couple of changes may fix that. And I do think Joe will make those changes if necessary. I don't think he's going to bring a group who've underperformed for 3 weeks to the World Cup. I think there's going to be some serious discussions this week because, and there has to be. And I think players have to take ownership of that themselves, and there might be 1 or 2 surprises or shocks when that squad is picked.
A couple of quick comments here. Alan Dooley says, imagine what the player ratings would be like on Keep. Lots of 0s and 1s, I'd say. A 6. There were 3 6s, I think, that I've seen across the various player ratings. Danny B on YouTube, we want to talk about this because has Joe announcing his intention to leave after the World Cup had a substitute teacher effect? It doesn't matter how important the upcoming test is, if the teacher's out sick, people tend to take it easy.
Yeah, I don't buy into it because I think, and a lot of people have mentioned it, Eddie Jones is in a similar situation, isn't he? It's not affecting them. Steve Hansen is finishing after the All Blacks. We've seen examples of it before.
Michael Check is going.
We've seen examples of it before where it's affected teams, and who knows? Only the players can tell you. It could be one of the reasons that some of them maybe have. But I doubt it very much. I think there's so much experience and quality in there, and winners that haven't dropped their standards. I just think
they play all their lives to play the World Cup.
They've been pretty. They've had this incredible upward trajectory, and I think they've hit a bit of a wall now. And sometimes that happens, teams, where you become stagnant, you become stale, and maybe the way they've played has been successful, and trying to change that and trying to fix those issues and problems that happened in the Six Nations where their ball was slowed down, they were physically outmatched. They became inaccurate.
They became predictable.
And they became predictable and maybe experienced a different type of pressure from the opposition. So teams have looked at them and said, slow them down, smash them on the gain line, have loads of numbers in the line. Like watching England on Saturday from a very high position to stand, they had very few people in the breakdown at any stage. It was incredible. Some of the rucks that Ireland were trying to play and go in those first 20 minutes, half an hour, they were just folding. So 2 or 3 rucks, Ireland were kind of a little bit of a gain line, less of a gain line, on the gain line, behind the gain line, turnover, knock on. So we have become a little bit predictable. And I think teams are folding really, really hard around the corners to try and stop us and slow us down. So, sometimes I would say, well, hit up the middle and open both sides to try and vary the time. And look, they were trying to do that. But I think it's just making some good decisions on the fly and identifying that there's a load of English numbers here. Well, let's not go there, or just the 10 drop back in the pocket and kick.
Are we always going to be hammered by England when they have the Vinipolas and Tuilagi and Itoje? With that power that team now has? Bear in mind, we didn't beat that team when we beat them for the Grand Slam. It was a different team.
Yeah, Vunipola wasn't there, Tuilagi wasn't there. Thakanasinga, now the winger, he's 6'3" and 18.5 stone. And
can we beat those teams?
We can, but we've to be a lot more precise with the ball, and we've to be a lot more accurate. And I think we have to play a little bit more territory. and we have to play a bit more on the front foot. One of the big strengths, Ger, of that Irish team, the success in 2018, was ball retention. Look at Leinster over the years and the way teams under Joe, the way you couldn't get the ball back off them. The energy, the execution at the breakdown, the pace, and just the relentless pressure. It wore teams down and it created gaps and spaces. We haven't been able to create enough quick quality ball to get on the front foot during the Six Nations. And that's down to the opposition, figuring out ways of stopping Ireland, but also inaccuracies then and poor, for some reason, there seems to be a lack of confidence or a lack of energy or a lack of drive in the players to kind of take hold themselves. People criticise Joe's game plan at times and saying it's predictable and there's no risks involved. But I think the players need to, at times when you get on the ball, try something a little bit different themselves and try and bring a little bit of their own brilliance and their own talent to take on their opposition. And like even some of the backline moves on Saturday were so pedestrian and cross-field, and in contrast you look at England, their accuracy, their dummy runners were just holding up Irish defenders, where sometimes we're dummy runners coming and they're just not even, they're not even getting the ball. So there's a lot of inaccuracies around that attack as well. And look, it's early days. We spoke about the mitigation at the start. The mitigation is it's first game, they're off a heavy block. They're a little bit behind probably in their match practice. But it's a concern. I think
that mitigates
by
about 20% of it.
Yeah, it's like it's not all that.
That's a team who's forgotten how
look,
to
if
win.
England beat us, 32-18 or 20 on Saturday,
you're like, okay,
10,
grand.
12 points.
The
fine.
training camp took it out of them.
But 57.
Yeah,
but that's the thing as well. We're talking about the attacking philosophy of Ireland here, the lack of invention in attack. They conceded 57 points. They missed 34 tackles. Are you blaming Andy Farrell for that? Are you blaming individual errors? It's probably a mixture of both.
It's a mixture of both. I think he'd be pulling his hair out with some of the decisions by players, Irish players. The spacing was way too narrow at times. The lack of cohesion and togetherness in defence. Players shooting out of the line. There was at least 3 or 4 of the tries the other day that were uncharacteristic, soft.
That's not holding anything back. That's
and listen, if you're going to go and perform in a World Cup, it's to switch that stuff on pretty quickly and fix those errors and mistakes. We've shown vulnerabilities in defence before, but Saturday was just much too soft. Regarding our attack, on 69 minutes, we entered the English 22 for the second time. 69 minutes. For the second time, we were in their 22. Now, you think back at the pressure and the wins over the years, we were pounding teams and just playing multiple phases. Sometimes we weren't making clean line breaks, but it's just, we were able to get into the right areas and grind out a penalty or a kick into the corner or a try. They have a lot of stuff to fix very quickly, and look, I think they'll be a lot better. They're not as bad as they showed on Saturday. But I think sometimes 2 or 3 changes. So if we were to pick our team now for Scotland, Ger, we could probably all be close before Saturday, right? We go, we can pick it. But I think
this changes things.
There needs to be 2 or 3 different guys in that 15 now.
So Conan instead of Stander, maybe?
It could happen, yeah. I think the people who are going to have a say are Niall Scannell, Jack Conan, Chris Farrell, Robbie Henshaw, Keith Earl is going to come back in, Johnny Sexton. So you could potentially have 6 or 7 guys coming back into the group. And that's not writing Peter O'Mahony and CJ Stander and Josh van der Fleer and Rory Best completely off. They've got to now atone for this and fix it pretty quickly, because they're good players, they're top quality players, have produced big performances. But the worry is those big performances, we haven't seen them in a little bit, and we've got to see them quickly. And
is this a crisis?
Not a crisis, I don't think. It's a major concern and a major worry. Like I said, if we got away with 15, 17 point loss at the weekend and, walked away from Twickenham saying, look, we had a few chances here, and if this pass stuck, we could have got another try, and 1 or 2 mistakes, somebody shot out of the line, it was this mistake, that's a 7 points, it shouldn't have happened. You walk away and you go, right, there are things that... But I think the gap and the gulf that happened on Saturday creates more concern and a very, very worrying concern. But I still believe, and people will probably say I'm crazy for this, I still believe that they can get it right and they can fix it. But there needs to be 2 or 3 guys into that team to freshen it up, I think.
It's just that nobody's playing well, really.
Well, you can imagine if you put the likes of Rory Best, CJ Stander, Bundy Aki, any of these guys on the bench, so they were dropped. It might be little change in mentality or psyche or pressure or confidence or whatever that they need. And one of them coming back on the field and they deliver a big moment or a try, it can change things very quickly. So all players have slumps and hit walls and things go wrong.
We just always seem to do it together.
But to be fair, the culmination of the mistakes here is down to the opposition. Going back to my first point with Sky on Saturday, physically, we're not at the races and whether that's an attitude thing or a mentality thing, individually or collectively, they need to bloody front up here and quickly. And I think that's what will probably make Andy Farrell and Joe so frustrated. There's 34 missed tackles.
We're out of time, right? But
shocking.
Wasn't the whole point of the training camp that they were supposed to be killing each other? And so
well, look, to be fair, you're putting stuff in the tank and you're loading from a fitness base and you're putting miles on the clock and you're fatiguing people and you're doing weights in rugby and you're pushing unbelievably hard. So you can.
So we're still in pre-season.
Absolutely, you can still be very fatigued. Now, I think there would have been a bit of shock even for the fitness guys and the coaches that they were a little bit lead-footed on Saturday. So they've got to, this isn't about overtraining now in the next period. This is about maybe recoveries for some people and going through the videos and going through some skills-based stuff that they need to get right. So atonement, I believe in it. I don't think they've only a week really.
Yeah.
Literally, they've this week to get themselves on that plane because it's going to be picked next weekend.
And that's when they send the list to World Rugby, is it?
Yeah, and it's not necessarily on who plays because I think there would be 2 kind of groups of people who would have been selected in their minds for these 2 weekends.
And there was already 2 groups. Half the team who were in Portugal didn't go to London, they came back.
Yeah.
So a few of them actually had a few days off to look at the game at home going, Jesus, that didn't go so well.
Yeah.
Right, and good stuff. The inquest has begun. It's normally we wait until there's a few bodies to get the inquest going, but in this case,
hopefully we can turn it around.
Right, just a reminder, our brilliant competition this week on OTB AM with thanks to Dominic Smith, Expert Electrical in Dundrum, to mark the launch of their exclusive new TV and home entertainment showroom offering the latest TV and home entertainment solutions. Every morning, we've got a €100 voucher from Dominic Smith, Expert Electrical and Home up for grabs. Then on Friday, anybody who's entered the competition all week is in the draw for our overall prize of a state-of-the-art Sony TV and home entertainment system worth $4,000. It's a sleek and contemporary 65-inch Sony Bravia smart TV. It's also it's a next-generation Android smart TV providing viewers with a multi-dimensional cinema viewing experience, and it's a full home entertainment system as well. So to enter, all we're asking you to do this morning is share the broadcast wherever you're watching or listening, and send us in a comment with your sports moment of the summer. So on whatever platform you're listening, just make sure you leave us a comment and we'll collate all the entries and put you into the draw for Friday. We've had a load of examples of entries. The first 7 minutes of the second half in Dublin Mayo, Shane Lowry winning the Open. That one's from Darren Martin. The first one's from Sean Buckley. Martin Mack says Lowry having the crack and singing for the week. Dara Hayes, sporting moment of the year, was seeing 14-man Tip come from behind and battle through against Leinster champions Wexford to get to the All-Ireland hurling final. And Isle Cody says sports moment of the year has to be the footage of Shane Lowry's various celebrations post-win at the Open. If his grandmother singing at the homecoming could get it, that would be mine. Hashtag OTB AM. So Dominic Smith, Expert Electrical, is one of Ireland's leading premium electrical and home entertainment retailers. We're back talking the weekend's ladies football semi-finals with Cliodhna O'Connor. As Dublin held off Cork, they're going to meet Galway in the final, who beat Mayo by 1 point in super controversial circumstances. After the game, the Mayo manager Peter Leahy told Aisling O'Reilly that he believes that VAR was used, even though it doesn't really exist in certainly in the GAA, to make a key call in his side's All-Ireland semi-final clash at Croke Park yesterday. That's a claim that the LGFA have immediately said is not true. Have a look.
There was a very controversial decision there at the last with Rachel Kearns. The ref blew for a free, and then all of a sudden we seen in the crowd that it was a free out for Galway, and no one was sure what was going on really.
Yeah, it was done from upstairs in the television booth. They were told through their ear that it was 2 hops, and I didn't realise that the LGFA had gone to VAR. So it's something that's, it's annoying. They'll deny that, but that's what happened. They'll say the umpire gave it, the umpire didn't give it. You didn't see with the umpire with his hand up, did you? No, so the umpire didn't give it.
We seen the ref, he put his hand up for a free,
Yeah.
and then it was called for 2 hops, so that's actually...
It came from upstairs, from the television.
And will you push this?
No, it's nothing to push. I'll be told, slap in the wrist and shut up, and that's really what's going to happen. So there's no point, they'll just say the umpire said it, but the umpire didn't say it. So, the reality is who's telling what and what, but all I know is our girls are devastated in there, and they should be playing another 15 or 10 minutes aside there to see, and then let's see how it goes.
All right, so Cliodhna O'Connor is here to talk to us about the end of this game. Nothing like a bit of controversy to get everybody interested.
Yeah.
Peter Leahy says that VAR was used, or whatever system we want to call it. The LGFA immediately denied that had been the case, that the referee had made the decision after consultation with the umpire. For anybody who hasn't seen this, there's 40 seconds left on the clock when Mayo lump a ball into their full forward line, win possession, there's an offload, there's a great run through, and then the referee blows the whistle for what's clearly a foul, and it looks like it's going to be free in, tap over point to bring us to extra time.
Yeah.
Something happens, the camera comes away, we don't see anything else, and next thing it's a free out, and the commentators are like, Duck Reggie, unbelievable, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. Well, sitting in the stands, it definitely looked like a free in. And you were waiting for it, you were saying, oh Jesus, it's going to extra time and all that. So it definitely looked like she was being fouled on the way in. Now, I don't know, there was a bit of a delay whether he blew the whistle and then spoke to his umpires, and the umpires saw something he didn't, because the Mayo girl was being tackled by maybe 3 Galway players. So, and the referee was behind that. Obviously, the umpire's on the line. Maybe he saw it from a different angle. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But there was definitely a change. I think a change in decision.
Because we couldn't see on TV if there was even a consultation between the umpire and the referee.
You'd imagine that the director would come back to it if there was the consultation, and also the commentators, I was watching on TV as well, the commentators were in the stadium, they would have been able to say, oh, what's going on here, or something like that. So you'd imagine that there wasn't, and it would have been probably a prolonged enough chat, and it would have been noticeable to everybody in the stadium that it happened. So it's a free out for 2 hops, and it seems that in the middle of the second hop, her jersey's pulled, and then as she completes the second hop, it seems that she shouldered in the chest, and that's what the free is given for.
And a foot block. It was a massive amalgamation of fouls.
But because it happens after the second block, that's why he changes his mind and gives the free out. But I don't know. I think before that ball hits the ground the second time, I think that she has been fouled.
Yeah, it was definitely, it was what was there, 40 seconds left in the game or something?
31, I think at that stage.
So it's last ditch tackling. It's let's not concede a goal. They were throwing their bodies on the line.
Yeah.
It did look like a free in. But I suppose it's a referee's decision on the pitch, and for whatever reason, whether he consulted or not, he decided to turn over.
Yeah, and you've got to live with it and get on with it, but at the same time, it's fair enough to bring it up.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have been in that situation though, right?
I don't think so. I think Galway deserved to win, actually. To be honest, I thought they played better football. Galway were a lot better than I thought they were going to be. They played really skillful football. I thought some of their passing into their forward line was exceptional. I thought some of their movement to their forward line was exceptional. The only thing I would say from both sides is maybe their defending was a bit naive. There was times when both sides had maybe at least 10 players back inside their own 45 in a defensive structure, but they weren't making tackles, and they were allowing people to run through. So it's just, I suppose, it's no good having all these people back if they're not actually defending, if they're just taking up space.
Yeah.
But I do think Galway are a better team, and did deserve to win.
Okay, that controversy, it looks like, is going to run and run. The LGFA have always been heralded as one of those sports organisations who do look to the future. I mean, I'm not saying that they are using VAR, but I'm sure they would be open to it in the future.
Well, and this would need to be clarified, but I know in previous championships they have had an extra referee in the broadcasting booth that the on-field referee can, if they want to, go and ask for, if they want something clarified. Now, it doesn't work the other way around, and I was under the opinion that that was the case in this year's championship as well.
Right.
Now maybe it's changed, but they definitely used it in previous years. But the person in the van, let's say, couldn't
You can't stand
intervene.
there and go, hey, hang on, you missed something there.
But if the on-field referee had an issue, they could ask for it, the other referee in the van, to check it. So obviously that wasn't used. I mean, LGFA said it was made on the pitch. So
yeah.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that. So this is in all grounds, or
if there's
being televised.
If there's broadcasts, if
Right.
TG Cahir have their broadcast van with them, then there was a referee in there.
And is there a sense of how that went? Were players and managers happy with that? But like, was it a kind of? It seems to be an under the radar trial almost for video refs in Gaelic games.
It's definitely. I think everybody was. I think the first call was it was a Cork Monaghan game, and Cliodhna O'Connor hit the crossbar. You know, when you take a shot, hits the crossbar, bounces down, and it did cross the line, and they checked it, and that was the first intervention from that analysis system, and it worked, and everyone was happy with it. Cork went on to win the game anyway. It didn't matter, but it's definitely been in place for a couple of years, and I presumed it was in place this year as well. But it's up to the referee on the pitch to use it. They don't have to use it.
Right.
Yeah.
Progressive, taking advantage of the available technology to try and make the right decisions is the right thing to do.
I think so.
Let's talk a little bit about the Doves, because 7 points all at half time, and I'm sure they were a little bit concerned at that stage.
You'd imagine so. I suppose watching the game, I was sitting in the stands and you're thinking, oh, come on, will this game get going? And it was very cautious and careful, and I was talking to someone afterwards and I was sort of saying, oh, it was a bit boring in the first half. And they said, did you not think it was fascinating? It was two teams that really knew each other and were trying to, tactically outsmart each other and all of this. And from that perspective, you can see it. But I suppose from an entertainment, from a spectacle point of view, you're thinking, oh, well, someone score a goal, someone give us something to shout about. It was a little bit flat in the first half. But you were never going to beat Cork with just the basics. There's always that little moment, that little injection that you need, and that came with the Cliodhna O'Connor goal and Siobhan McGrath's block or interception. I think it was Niamh Cotter going for a goal on the far end when Dublin were down to 14. That was a decisive moment, I thought, because if Cork got that goal at that point, all of a sudden they're back in the game. It changes things altogether.
Yeah, Cork had chances. There was that one. There was also the shot that just trickles wide of the right hand post.
Yeah. So the Cork, you can never really discount them, as we know that for sure. So what we saw yesterday was those little chances. Dublin were getting those little tackles in. The shots were going wide, and they were converting when they needed to convert on the other side. So they weren't giving those little chinks of light back to Cork. They were keeping them at arm's length in the second half.
So Dublin obviously gave Cork huge tactical respect, and I think that's a natural thing, but you do wonder if the shackles have been off in the first half, would Dublin have been in the lead? Like, this may be a question that they'll have to ask themselves before the All-Ireland final. Is it just worrying about ourselves is the best thing that Dublin can do because they are the best team in the country?
I think they need to. We saw flashes of it in the second half. That I suppose, shackles off football, that they can play, that more expansive football, they have that in them. And sometimes I feel, and this goes for every team, you can be overcautious, and it was billed as this big game and big rivals, and you go into that mode of whoever makes the least mistakes will win the game, and which is great, and it's all game management and all that stuff, which is wonderful and very, very sports sciencey and everything. But sometimes I think that can stifle teams. I do think if Galway play their style of football, which is just go at them, run. I mean, you saw the Galway full-back running straight up the pitch numerous times, just run and attack.
But everybody knew she was going to do it because they were looking for her when she made those runs.
Yeah, and you could see the Galway players, it's obviously their style. There was 3 or 4 of them all the time. Nobody was ever left isolated. If they bring that and Dublin bring their expansive style, I think it could be a really, really good game. The only thing I'd wonder about Galway is that naivety in defence. Did they just go, and not really hold their structure in the back line when they need to?
So they need to come up with a defensive structure, something that we haven't seen from Galway yet, or do they have it in the locker already in terms of producing that?
I haven't seen it. The last time Dublin played Galway, I think it was last year, in a semi-final, Galway fell to pieces, to be honest with you. They were poor, and you didn't see that skill. Like they have some of the best footballers in the country that didn't come across the last time they played Dublin, and you'd be hoping that they're a little bit more savvy now. And that game against Mayo will be big. they were saying yesterday, most of that team, I think, or all of that Galway team, have never played in Croke Park before. So that's a big sort of practice run, I suppose, for the final.
Yeah, when we were talking last week, I was making the point that it looked like Dublin were stepping up into that sense of confidence that being All-Ireland champions gives you, but that wasn't the case in the first half against Cork. Was that just because it was such a big and has been such an important rivalry for them that got into their head a little bit, that now that's over, they should be able to go back to being free-flowing, more aggressive?
I think they need to back themselves a little bit more. I think they were probably a bit overcautious. I think they were, and they were trying to do the right thing and trying to be careful. They're at their best when they just play and they go at the opposition. Their defensive line, I believe, is good enough. They've good enough one-on-one markers. Like Ava Rutledge was fantastic yesterday. A new addition to the back line. Niamh Collins is always brilliant. So they have people who can hold their own back there. They don't need to be too defensive. I think they can be more aggressive and bring a bit more impetus to their play. And I think it's a better spectacle anyway. For us being selfish, wanting to watch something good, I think it's a better spectacle.
You can see that happens with loads of great teams. Like it feels a little bit like it happened with the Dublin men's team over the last couple of years, that this year in the semi-final they were more happy to go out and just swat teams aside in a way that, like, there was definitely a containment. Post Donegal, there was a period where Dublin wouldn't kill you in the big games, and it didn't look like they were interested in killing you. They were just going to beat you death by 1,000 cuts. They've gone back a little bit more, it seems, this year to trying to kill you again.
Yeah.
Teams go through cycles like that.
It's like a tap, isn't it? It's like the ability to just say, all right, this is the period where we're going to go gung-ho, and maybe that's just a real understanding of strength and conditioning and knowing that you really only have that 10-minute period, because after 10 minutes of playing at such a high-octane pace, you are going to feel it in the legs.
There is a bit of sports science to it in terms of managing your game and all of that, but I think there's also an influx of this, I suppose it's the stats, it's the performance analysis piece, it's this, like, you hear people talking about all the time, game management. So knowing when, if we hold the ball here and we're ahead and we slow the game down and we suck the life out of the game, it gives the opposition less chance to score, we're in control and controlling the pace of the game. And you see that in terms of the good teams, and Dublin men do it very well, being able to change the tempos, but also understanding, right, in this, we're on top now, here's the 10 minutes to go for the jugular, and that's when they score their 1-2 or their 2-3 or whatever it is that they score. And then it's back to, well, let's control it again, because we don't want to do all that work, get ahead, and then keep going frantically, start making errors, give the opposition the ball, and all of a sudden we've lost the good work. So it's all about controlling the games, which is great and it makes sense and all that. But then sometimes if you don't fully understand and you're not fully aware on the pitch about when the momentum is shifting, it can turn into that very kind of controlled and conformed type of play
for too long, for the whole time, and you never actually you miss the moment when it was your chance.
Exactly. Or you don't have that confidence and creativity to say, oh, look, there's a little gap, I'm going to go. You play the safe one all the time, and the really good players and the really good teams, they have that ability to, okay, we're playing it safe, we're playing it safe, we're playing it safe, now I'm going, because they just don't think about it, they just see it and they go.
It felt like last year the Dublin, back to the women's team, had that they were far more in control of games, but also they had the scoring blitzes where they would just kill teams, and that would come quickly in games. This year they're maybe a little bit, this year's team maybe isn't as good as last year's team.
I don't think I'd say that. Maybe it's just the game against Cork. I mean, it was a massive game for them psychologically in many ways, and I don't think they felt like they've performed particularly well to date. I mean, they were beaten by Cork twice in the league, once in the round robins in the semi-final. Their run up to the semi-final there wasn't against wonderful opposition, so they didn't really get to test themselves. So they had to be sure. They had to be absolutely sure. Even, I mean, the decision with Nicole Owens, she's been coming back from injury. They started her. She came off after 2 minutes. Like, that's a risky call. So you don't do that unless you think, oh God, we might need her, or if they thought that was a done deal that game, they probably wouldn't have started her.
Is there any way this isn't a men's-women's double for Dublin this year?
It's hard to see anything else really. I would hope that Galway brings something different, something that we haven't seen. I would hope they're a little bit more savvy, because I do think they have the football ability to make it a really good final. I do think they have the football ability to challenge Dublin. It's just whether they have the, what way would you put it, the performance capacity on the big day. That would be the piece I wonder, are they missing? With the men's, it's hard to see the lads being beaten. But that doesn't mean it's beyond possibility that they've been beaten before. So why not?
Clearly good stuff. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. It's 16 minutes, just nearly 17 minutes past 9 this morning. You're watching OTB AM. We're back with Phil Egan and the very latest sports news after these.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
With over 15,000 coolers available to hire or buy, HSS Hire has a cooling solution for every workplace. Research shows staff are happier when their surroundings are comfortable. And with HSS Hire's range of fans, air conditioners and coolers, you can transform hot and stuffy into cool and calm. Drop into your local HSS, with branches nationwide in Dublin, Waterford, Cork, Limerick and Galway, and get up to 50% off your first hire. HSS Hire, you're better equipped.
Want to explore the beauty of Northern Ireland? Have your pick of locations. Explore Titanic at its heart with Maldron Hotel Belfast City. Become a true dairy girl and walk the historic city walls at the Maldron Hotel Dairy. Heading abroad? Start your trip with the Maldron Hotel Belfast International Airport, 50 meters from the main terminal entrance. With B&B rates from £99, rest assured, it's a Maldron. Book now at maldronhotels.com. Terms and conditions apply.
OTB AM.
To me, even the ad that I saw that appeared in the Sunday Times and several other newspapers, the wording of the ad didn't show the clarity it should have shown. It suggested that people were applying for positions as independent directors, but maybe applying for positions of places on other committees, but that wasn't clear. I read the ad several times and it wasn't clear to me what someone should do if you wanted to apply to be an independent director or to be on one of the committees. It wasn't at all clear.
Were you tempted to apply?
Definitely not. You must be joking. I had no ambition to be a director of the FAI in any shape or form. I had but I wouldn't have even encouraged other people, given on the basis of the wording of the ad. I thought they even got that wrong. And that isn't hard. That's hard to do, to get an ad in the paper where you're offering positions, be it that they're unpaid, but very important positions that many people in Irish society feel are vital at this moment in time for the future of the game. The least they could have done was got the wording right.
It's Brian Kerr scathing about the FAI. Plenty of FAI stories to get our teeth into over the next couple of days, and rest assured we will be getting to the bottom of the Sunday Times story as soon as we possibly can. Phil, how are you this morning?
Very well, yeah. I suppose we can actually start with the FAI because the draw for the quarter-finals was made a short time ago in the FAI Cup. Give you the actual draw first. Holders Dundalk will travel to Waterford. Leinster Senior League side Crumlin United, the only non-league side left in the competition, will face Bohemians. They were drawn first, but you'd imagine the game probably going to be played somewhere like Richmond Park. Galway United will have home advantage against Shamrock Rovers, and it's Sligo Rovers against UCD. So those ties will be played on the weekend ending the 8th of September. The draw was made on Morning Ireland. FAI President Donal Conway was due to conduct the draw, that's what we're told, but last night informed them that he was unavailable for this morning's draw.
They've got themselves into a situation now where the people who are associated with what happened, with everything that happened before, are so embedded in the culture of what happened that it's mad they're still there. It's just mad. It's like almost no other organisation
for once I found myself agreeing with Shane Ross that everyone of the old regime needed to be out, to start fresh.
Yeah, like it's a situation where all the problems we've seen and all the stories that have emerged have come from an ingrained culture almost, and we are now expecting the people who are part of that to change their ways. despite the fact that it was, as I say, a culture that was ingrained in how they acted in their positions. So you would always like to be positive about things in terms of giving people second chances and stuff, but really, if you look at the sheer volume of stories at this point, it's far beyond the second chance we are.
Yeah, I would imagine there's a few more stories because
Clearly,
they just keep coming.
Yeah, these are going to roll and roll and roll and roll and roll and roll until somebody says, okay, stop. That's the old organisation. The new organisation, Football Ireland or whatever it's called, we do things differently. Our doors are open, our books are open. Please give us some money.
Yeah. Dundalk are in action tonight. They can open up a 7-point lead at the top of the SSE or Tricity League Premier Division. They host bottom side UCD at Oriel Park at 7:45. Manchester City picked up their second Premier League win of the season. The champions beat Bournemouth 3-1 at the Vitality Stadium thanks to 2 goals from Sergio Aguero either side of a Raheem Sterling strike. Big surprise, though, at White Hart Lane as Tottenham slipped to a shock 1-0 defeat at home to Newcastle. Joelinton scored the only goal of the game for the Magpies to give manager Steve Bruce a first win since taking over. And it finished 1-1 between Wolves and Burnley. Wolves scored an injury time penalty in that one. VAR intervened there. Celtic and Rangers both won yesterday to maintain their 100% start to the Scottish Premiership season. Celtic won 3-1 at home to Hearts. Rangers picked up a 1-0 win at St Mirren, so both old firm clubs have 3 wins from 3. Rory McIlroy claimed the $15 million prize for winning the Tour Championship in Atlanta. The 4-time major winner finished up on 18 under par to win by 4 shots ahead of American Xander Schauffele. McIlroy went into the final round trailing world number 1 Brooks Koepka by 1 shot. The two played in the final group. It was McIlroy who held his nerve down the stretch. There was a few sticky moments, but a par on the 16th, a good putt on the 16th, and a birdie on the 17th sealed the win for him. A third tournament win of the season for McIlroy, who joins Tiger Woods as the only player to win the FedEx Cup Series twice.
Such a cool way to end what has been for me a great season. I'll look back on this season and there's been a lot of good things that I've done and try to improve for next year again.
So that format that he was talking about, remember he said, I'll let you know on Monday.
Yeah. So, format's great. Totally worked out. In fairness, as somebody said, the whole point of this was to try and get the best 2 players up against each other in the final pairing on Sunday, and lo and behold, that's what happened.
Yeah, it's something that we often kind of say hypothetically about Rory McIlroy, that if he was down a few shots every single day of a major, he'd be the best player in the world.
Starting to be 5 behind.
He literally did manage to have that situation where this was the first competition in the history of the sport where somebody got a 10-shot head start, 5 shots ahead of Rory McIlroy, and we've seen what happened. So he's a great chaser, and he's right, it has been a great season if you look at it overall. It's just it does just kind of boil down to majors quite a bit, especially for Rory McIlroy because he talks about them so much, and he has admitted that moment of Portrush was a pretty tough one.
Yep, Sunday the 15th of September is the date for the All-Ireland Ladies Senior Football Final. Dublin remain on course to win 3 in a row. Second half goals from Cliodhna O'Connor and Sinead Ahern gave the reigning champions a 2-11 to 11-point win over Cork. And after the game, Aoife Fitzgerald announced that he was stepping down as manager of Cork after 4 years in charge. Galway, Dublin's opponents on the 15th, will play in their first final since 2005 after edging out Connacht rivals Mayo by a point. Roisin Leonard scored the winning free to give Galway a win on a scoreline of 2-10 to 2-9. We can hear from Galway manager Tim Rabbitt now, who was delighted to get over the finish line in such a tight game.
Super occasion. We came out the right side of that result. It could have went either way. It was topsy-turvy. We knew that with Mayo. They're our neighbours, so they're a natural kind of rivalry that's there. And so we knew there'd be nothing in that game today. Like we said, come up, we won it by a point, we're happy. So that's the way it turned out. So we're obviously delighted.
It's stage 3 of the Vuelta a España, and it's Nicholas Roach who will be wearing the leader's red jersey. He has a 2-second lead on general classification going into day 3. Ben Stokes inspired England to an incredible victory over Australia in the third Ashes test yesterday. His unbeaten 135 helped England level the series at 1-1. They were chasing down a target of 359, and I think he's pretty much got the sports personality of the year in the can, has he? Once they...
What would need to... Yeah. I mean, if they lose, right? I mean, they won the World Cup, so that's enough.
Yeah, probably. I tell you...
well, another World Cup win might change that a small bit. Like, he probably would have needed the Six Nations as well to back that up. But if Owen Farrell does a Johnny Wilkinson, for example, then
maybe, yeah.
He
would
be
need
in
to
the
be,
mix.
wouldn't he?
If Luke Campbell pulls off a major shock and beats Lomachenko next weekend, he could be up for it as well, but I don't think that's going to happen. Just to wrap up here, US Tennis Open, it gets underway today at Flushing Meadows in New York. A lot of the big hitters in action. Defending men's champion Novak Djokovic goes up against Roberto Carballes Baena. 5-time winner Roger Federer takes on Sumit Nagal. But the match of the day, a first round clash between Serena Williams and Maria Sharapova.
Oh.
That is going to be tasty.
All right.
I did forget saying that the BBC covers all of Britain. Wales have the Grand Slam. So if Wales end up winning the World Cup, is that...
They'd still get snubbed for the cricket, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Like England are more British than Wales, basically, is what you're saying.
So how successful a year has it been? It is mad that the whole golf season is over in the 26th of August. How successful a year has it been for Rory McIlroy?
Very successful year. If you come away with that amount of money, then it's a very successful year. It depends what your whole idea of success is, and as Bill O'Callaghan says on screen there, Rory McIlroy's disappointing seasons are better than most seasons. There's been disappointing moments in a very, very good season, I think it's fair to say.
I think that we can't, winning this makes him the best over the course of the whole year.
Yeah.
And there's those 4 occasions when you get the chance to win that week, and he didn't win one of those, even though he did put himself in contention a couple of times.
And that was part of his jibe at Brooks Koepka before the Open, that he just shows up and does it on the majors.
Really?
And that part of that was telling everybody, look at what I'm doing week in, week out. I mean, Paul McGinley's been on the show multiple times saying his form this year has been very good. I don't think we've been trapped or fooled into thinking that Rory McIlroy had a chance in these majors. I think it was actually based on the fact that he was quite often going into majors with either a win, which was the case at the Open, wasn't it? So he'd won the
Canadian Open, didn't he?
And then, you look at all the other majors as well, and he'd started the season well. It just seems that going into the Masters, it was a reasonable thing to suggest that he might win it. And when he does not win it, it's kind of like, oh, well, I told you so sort of job. But I do think that you can look at the first round of Portrush as an absolute disaster and not a good kind of indication of what he can do when it really matters.
And the problem is the Masters being the first major of the year, it's the one that he wants the most. It's the one that he hasn't won. So if he doesn't win it, then
he's only got,
he's only got 3 left, 3 chances left. But it must be hard to get that out of a system.
If he could flip it and finish.
If the Masters was the last of the majors, who knows? But that's.
You should ring Augusta and tell him that. Here, listen, for poor Rory, could we not just stick that back to August?
Yeah, well, they changed the Open and the US Open.
That all worked out all right, didn't it?
So,
or did it? I don't know. I can't tell. I mean, everybody was very obsessed with golf for an 8-week period. Maybe that didn't happen.
Well, what I would say...
He was an Irish winner of one of the big tournaments by a mile that was held in Ireland.
That doesn't help Rory either, by the way.
I would say that there will be a bit of
Irish winner.
The prestige of this event, FedEx Cup, is only going to grow over the next couple of years as well. So I'd say they've actually paved the way nicely for this to actually kind of work out very, very well over the next few years. Once the majors are done, suddenly people are they've got that appetite for a bit more golf, and the FedEx Cup is a fantastic format.
All right, thanks, Phil. All this week, courtesy of our friends at Dominic Smith Electrical, we have Dominic Smith Expert Electrical in Dundrum. We have an amazing prize to give away. It's the launch of their exclusive new TV and home entertainment showroom, which offers the latest TV and home entertainment solutions. There's a €100 voucher for Dominic Smith Expert Electrical up for grabs every morning. Congratulations to Dara Hayes, who was listening on OTB AM on the Go Loud app this morning, and tweeted us that his sporting moment of the year was seeing 14-man Tip come from behind and battle through against Leinster champions Wexford to get to the All-Ireland hurling final. And so he's picked up a €100 voucher for Dominic Smith Expert Electrical, one of Ireland's leading premium electrical and home entertainment retailers. That's our lot for you on OTB AM this morning. Loads of analysis and reaction coming your way across the day on offtheball.com, and of course on the radio this evening with the lads from 7. Stay tuned to all our social channels, because I'm sure there'll be loads of stuff coming your way in terms of that Monday Night Rugby when we get to parse over the disaster that was the game at Twickenham at the weekend. See you tomorrow. Good luck.
AM. This is OTB Sport.